Chapter 631, Great Net Advancement. Kuguguging. The advancement to Great Net Immortal proceeds as follows. First, one transmits the power of their immortal Tao toward the worlds where they have either destroyed or created civilizations. Then, toward all worlds that possess civilizations in each heavenly domain. In other words, toward stars, decaying corpse realms, and middle realms, they invoke phenomena through their immortal Tao. Through those phenomena, one simultaneously elevates the cultivation of all living beings in the heavenly domains connected to them. If the immortal Tao of the mountain accumulates specs to build a great mountain, then the Great Net Immortal Advancement ritual overseen by the Great Mountain Supreme Deity is to scatter the self that has become a great mountain and distribute it to the insignificant specks of life. And if, during this process, the power to be distributed to the heavenly domains where one has cultivated as an upper immortal becomes insufficient, the entire body is forcibly scattered and absorbed into Mount Sumeru to be devoured by the Great Mountain Supreme Deity. This is the Great Net Immortal Advancement Ritual. Begin. Keying. I trigger an explosion using the boundless light gathered in my palm as a medium. Kwang. The explosion spreads across the entire cosmic space. At the same time, the years I spent cultivating Yang pitch and Yin pitch in the twin-holding heavenly domain begin flashing before my eyes. The advancement to Great Net Immortal has begun. Although I haven't been able to exert influence strongly across the entire heavenly domain. This should be enough. I revise. Quagwagwagwang. I use the phenomena extinguishing mantra I just unfolded as a medium. Regardless of anything, the phenomena extinguishing mantra is a mantra that affects the entire universe. Using the influence of the mantra that just affected the entire universe, I exert power across the entire twin-holding heavenly domain, shake history with explosions, and revise it to my liking. In all places where intelligent races dwell, the mountains of this immortal shall rise. Kugugugugugu. At that very moment, the glass sword mountains within my body begin to appear above the countless stars of the twin-holding heavenly domain. Sword mountains rise. Above countless stars, across decaying corpse realms, within middle realms. It's when the entire twin-holding heavenly domain feels as though it rests in the palm of my hand, and I am momentarily intoxicated by the omnipotence. Kurururung. .. My physical body begins to scatter. I flinch in shock. This is the Great Mountain Supreme Deity. I understand it all too well. The Great Mountain Supreme Deity GWAKM has interfered with the advancement ritual. They are trying to devour me right now. Kugugugugu. Beyond the distant dark sky. Across the outer sea, the endlessly spreading sea of chaos. Beyond the depths of that chaos, there lies a tiny world. A world at most the size of Earth. And within that tiny world resides the Great Mountain Supreme Deity. They are reaching out their hand. ISHALLDEVOURYOU. Geeing. Crazy. The moment I connect with the consciousness of the Great Mountain Supreme Deity, I feel the same sensation I did when I looked directly at the heavenly venerable of the underworld and the emptiness Supreme Deity, like my eyes are about to burst. I writhe in agony. The Great Mountain Supreme Deity, completing the splitting heaven mantra, is now becoming an existence equal to underworld and emptiness. And no, as I am about to lose consciousness under the overwhelming pressure of the Great Mountain Supreme Deity, get a hold of yourself. Ho Woon's voice snaps me back. You, think carefully. Have you ever experienced death in a place other than the twin-holding heavenly domain? If not that, have you ever slain an upper immortal or above being somewhere else? If so, that too could count as upper immortal cultivation to some extent, so extend your power to that heavenly domain immediately. .. At those words, my eyes snap open. Have I experienced death in another place? Sun and Moon heavenly domain. Bearing Tree heavenly domain. Good Sight heavenly domain. Earth boundary heavenly domain. Twin holding heavenly domain. Before regression, I experienced death in 5, no, including the use of heavenly escape in the Heavenly King heavenly domain, 6 heavenly domains. And as for slaying upper immortal and above beings, I annihilated Blood Yin in the Sun and Moon heavenly domain, experienced death as an immortal beast in the Good Sight heavenly domain, and in the Earth boundary heavenly domain, I reincarnated beings of upper immortal and above into the recreated Earth. Would that count as killing too? In the twin-holding heavenly domain, I just recently destroyed a few thousand true immortals, and I also committed a great massacre in the Heavenly King heavenly domain. Recalling all of that sends a cold sweat down my spine. Insane. If it's like this, could it be? I grit my teeth hard. It really feels like I'm receiving retribution for all the atrocities I committed while wandering here and there during regressions. Guag. Sun and Moon Heavenly Domain. Heavenly King Heavenly Domain. Bearing Tree Heavenly Domain. Earth Boundary Heavenly Domain. Good Sight Heavenly Domain. Twin Holding Heavenly Domain. I transmit the explosion of revision to all 6 heavenly domains and squeeze out the power of my immortal Tao toward them. Scattering the immortal Tao across a single heavenly domain was bearable, but trying to scatter it across 6 entire heavenly domains makes my whole body feel like it's being wrung dry. It feels like I'm becoming Seo Un Yun vegetable juice. Gua, Sun and Moon Heavenly Domain, the 5 middle realms. There, bizarre phenomena begin occurring at the homelands of each civilization. Ku-gu-gu-gu-gu. Suddenly, the celestial energy flips, and from beneath the earth, glass sword mountains begin to rise. All the sacred masters of the middle realms who see this are struck with immense shock, and Ban Ta, who has served as a sacred master for 70 million years, roars in anguish, shedding tears of blood from grief and deprivation. At that moment, mountains begin rising simultaneously in all decaying corpse realms and stars across the entire Sun and Moon Heavenly Domain, excluding only the head realm. Heavenly King Heavenly Domain. There, the Radiance 8 Immortals, who are sweeping away the true immortals of Radiance Hall, speak with expressions of disgust. Black Dragon, of all times, to leak our secret at such a critical moment and turn Radiance Hall against us. How bothersome, a deluded and foolish being. It does not matter. Once the great mountain supreme deity exerts their power, all the bridles of oppression, all the beings of the immortal family, they will be utterly annihilated. We just need to endure until then. Our long-cherished wish is nigh. The Radiance 8 Immortals, calmly conversing as they massacre their former subordinates, appear almost as if they are out for a stroll. It is at that moment. The 5th seat of the Radiance 8 Immortals, the Sword Spear Heavenly Lord, trembles all over. This aura. The Radiance 8 Immortals simultaneously scan the Heavenly King Heavenly Domain. Something is happening. Although there are no middle realms or decaying corpse realms in the Heavenly King Heavenly Domain, the sheer number of living beings dwelling in its overwhelmingly numerous stellar systems is terrifying. Across the entire Heavenly King Heavenly Domain, sword mountains of glass begin to rise. Bearing Tree Heavenly Domain. Good Sight Heavenly Domain. It is the same in the Earth Boundary Heavenly Domain as well. In all these worlds, either governed or currently governed by various supreme deities or heavenly venerables, glass sword mountains begin to rise in various places. Within the Heavenly King Heavenly Domain, the Sword Spear Heavenly Lord's eyes begin to gleam sharply. Someone is undergoing an advancement ritual. And if it is this immortal Tao of the mountain and this aura, without doubt. Ku-gu-gu-gu-gu. The Sword Spear Heavenly Lord murmurs as they gaze across the entirety of the trembling Mount Sumeru. It's you. Another mountain spirit is trying to be born within Mount Sumeru. Draw out your power. It's still far from over. I snap back to my senses at Ho-Woon's rebuke. Hyok. Though each of the rising glass sword mountains are small, even within a single heavenly domain, the sheer number of civilizations makes the term immeasurable Wuliang Da Shu, 10-68 feel insufficient. To channel my immortal doubt at every single one of those places and squeeze out power, I feel like I'm truly about to die. This is only the beginning. Clear your mind, and through the immortal Tao you have manifested, bestow divine grace upon the mortal beings. Ha! Following Ho-Woon's guidance, I begin rotating the pure white 3 great ultimates behind my head. Power begins to surge infinitely. Ku-gu-gu-gu-gu. However, even with such infinitely surging power, the mere fact that I must bestow divine grace upon immeasurable civilizations across 6 heavenly domains and elevate the cultivation of living beings who have endured kalpas, that alone feels utterly suffocating. Kurururun. The flawless mantra, called the power of the God of Gods. The phenomena extinguishing mantra, which gathered and compressed true immortals. The power of the 2 mantras dwells within me. Through the power of these 2 mantras, I begin to draw out twilight true energy from my entire being. The infinite twilight true energy pulled from me flows in unison toward the mortal beings living in the 6 heavenly domains. Through the medium of my immortal Tao, the glass sword mountains, my power spreads across all 6 heavenly domains, and as I forcefully feed twilight true energy to the living beings, even the pure white 3 great ultimates which had been endlessly exuding power suddenly feels exhausted. My immortal body begins to shrivel and dry up like Seo Un Yun dried radish mumalang, transforming into something resembling a piece of bark. But at the same time, I begin to feel it. I can grasp it, in one hand. The countless flows of power spread across all of Mount Sumeru. The directions of attraction force, the magnitude and quality of authority, all seem to fit within a single palm. Simultaneously, I feel my consciousness forcibly expanding. For an instant, having exhausted all my energy and embodied emptiness, my spirit forcibly grows. This is where once I had to use immortal art to observe, now I perceive Mount Sumeru as if it sits in the palm of my hand. The 9 heavenly domains, and, the 4 dimensions that exist outside of Mount Sumeru. The underworld, the interdimensional void, the source river, the eastern heaven flower field. I begin to sense them. I flinch in surprise as I perceive the locations of the 4 dimensions, but now is not the time to focus on that. Now we have arrived. Have you scattered your immortal Tao and your power upon all the lands you have tread? I nod weakly. That will become your great net. Now then, if you have cast the net, it is time to reel it in. Ho Woon commands with their eyes gleaming. This is the final step. Those of the lower realm whose cultivation have grown by consuming your twilight true energy, reel them into your body. Ku-gu-gu-gu-gu. At that moment, I feel an immense attraction force fall into my grasp. It is an attraction force capable of acting on all of Mount Sumeru. What in the world is this? But there is no time to be amazed. They're coming. Among the mortal beings whose cultivation suddenly advanced due to the opportunity given by me. Those greatly affected by my twilight true energy and have reached the heavenly being stage, grand perfection heavenly being stage, or even the 4-axis stage, begin to ascend. I extend the attraction force toward the cultivators ascending from the 6 heavenly domains, and fully open my immortal body, now completely exhausted and in a state of emptiness. Come, children, to the embrace of this immortal. Originally, those from the Sun and Moon heavenly domains shouldn't be able to come due to the blockade of Radiance Hall. But perhaps because Radiance Hall is now plunged into great chaos, even those from the Sun and Moon heavenly domain begin to rush into my embrace. The essence of the Great Net Immortal Advancement Ritual is the opening of a middle realm. Become the middle realm yourself. Become the foundation upon which the living beings will live. Offer your body to them, let them feed upon you, and help them ascend the heavenly path. That shall be your new duty from now on. The moment the living beings ascend into my immortal body and take their first steps. I feel that my domain has been firmly engraved into the true immortal realm. At the same time, I become aware that from now on, the entirety of Mount Sumeru, especially the 6 heavenly domains, has become more attuned to me, making it easier to exert attraction force toward them. Seizing a part of the true immortal realm as my domain, I feel a powerful exaltation as my very existence etches itself into the Sumeru 3 heavens great thousand worlds, and I cry out in joy. Exclamation mark. At my roar, those who have just ascended prostrate toward the sky, trembling as they bow, and I grant them revelation so they may live within the middle realm that exists inside my body, the crystal glass realm. The 1004th cycle of regression. And, the 1000th cycle of reincarnation. After 80 million years of real time, 100 million years of perceived time. At long last, I have succeeded in rising to great net through the Tao of Earth. Chapter 632. Golden Speed Heavenly King Jin Shuan Tian Wang 1. Kuring, Kurururung. The twilight true energy inside my body shakes violently and begins evolving the living being who have ascended into me. Who, this is. Come to think of it, that's how it always was. When devilish cultivators who learned devilish arts ascend to the true devil realm, they accept the heaven and earth devilish energy and evolve into the devil race. If they ascend to the blood yin realm, they evolve into heavenly fiends. And ghost cultivators who ascend to the nether ghost realm accept the heaven and earth ghostly energy and become ghostly creatures. Now, the ascenders within me begin evolving as they accept the boundless twilight true energy. Wu Wang, single quote exclamation mark single quote. Warurururuk. Glass-like sharp scales sprout across their skin, and glass true fire gently rises from their entire bodies. They look somewhat similar to the candle dragon race, but also feel mixed with their original race. As I watch them, I realize they need a name as well. Just like how those of the nether ghost realm are called ghostly creatures, and those of the true devil realm are called the devil race, there should be something to call these living beings of the crystal glass realm. Similar to the candle dragon race, but not quite. Still, they burn with glass true fire, and they are affected by the laws of my world, so would candle law race Zhu Fa Zhu be fitting? But the more I think about it, the worse it sounds. It feels unlucky. No, there's no need to decide right now. After all, the owner of the elephant nose heavenly domain I'm heading to is the naming supreme deity. If it comes to it, I can just ask the naming supreme deity to give a suitable name. It's while I'm mulling over these thoughts. Congratulations. You've finally become a great net immortal. Senior Ho Woon. Until now, truly, thank why. Then now keep your promise. Speak the true will of Radiance Hall. Quote. Quote. For some reason, I freeze at Ho Woon's words like a sheet of ice. Then, I tell them the true will I know about Radiance Hall. After listening to all of it, Ho Woon nods. In truth, I already knew. Black Dragon revealed it to the world to cut Radiance Hall's power and sow discord between the Radiance 8 Immortals and Radiance Hall. Hearing that, I feel sorry. Then, I've got nothing left to give you, Senior Ho Woon. It doesn't matter. Now, I no longer care about anything. What happened? I know all too well the power of Radiance Hall. And especially more so for the Radiance 8 Immortals. On top of that, ever since learning that Radiance Hall has joined hands with the Great Mountain Supreme Deity to destroy Mount Sumeru, everything feels meaningless. Ho Woon's intent and triple divinity is leaning toward the destructive aspect. They are destroying themselves. I'm someone who yearned for justice all my life and finally became a true immortal amidst suffering. That is why, despite being from the Earth tribe, despite being an immortal beast, I did not enter the underworld and instead joined Radiance Hall. But, the justice I believed in was nothing but an illusion, and Radiance Hall was nothing more than a playground for madmen. Ho Woon reaches out their hand toward me. Now, nothing has any meaning. I interpret Ho Woon's intent through triple divinity, tracing their thoughts from the very root. If the Radiance 8 Immortals unleash their power, we will all be annihilated eventually. Including you, who I have raised with my own hands. I will reap what I have sown. Kill me before that, with your hands that I have raised with my own. Die. Ku-gu-gu-gu-gu. Above Ho Woon's hand, a blue giant star is born and flies toward me. Seeing that, I let out a low sigh. At least at the very end, let it be not by the hands of the Radiance 8 Immortals I devoted my life to, but by the junior brother of the wicked Great Mountain Supreme Deity, our enemy, and the one who has received my teachings. Let it be you who sends me off. Quote. At the same time as I read Ho Woon's thoughts, I reach out my hand. A single strike. It is only a single strike. The entire twin holding heavenly domain trembles. Pasa. A large hole pierces through Ho Woon's chest, and behind them, a portion of the heavenly domain collapses. It's a strike reminiscent of the Sword Spear Heavenly Lord's sword-guided star rain, but I don't even have a moment to feel pleased with its power. How strong. Ho Woon lets out an exclamation as they look at me. Good. Now, devour me. Use the phenomena, extinguishing mantra to compress me into a pill, and consume me. Quote. What are you talking about? I ask with a trembling voice, and Ho Woon chuckles. You, of the same lineage of the monstrous Great Mountain. Do not pretend to be virtuous, or keep up appearances. Even if I die, I said I'd teach you with all utmost sincerity. Until the very end, I want to be of help to you. Kill me and consume me. This world is built upon sacrifice anyway. As I, too, have sacrificed others. I, too, shall calmly accept my own sacrifice at death. I only wish to share my repentant enlightenment with you. Quote. I cannot refuse. Because I know triple divinity, I can now read intent at a more fundamental level than ever before. I cannot bring myself to reject the will, the heart contained within Ho Woon's intent. Their will to sacrifice themselves is that much sincere. Immortal cultivation is repentant enlightenment. Wing, the jade of yin-yang and 5 elements rises between my hands and begins to absorb Ho Woon. Like tiny grains of salt gathering to form the sea. Ku-gu-gu-gu-gu-gu. After resisting with all their strength for a time, Ho Woon gradually begins being pulled into me. Build mountains through repentant enlightenment. Even in their final moments, as if wanting to give their utmost until the very end, Ho Woon resists fiercely. Building a mountain of salt is perhaps the fastest way to reach the heavens. Holding hands with everyone at the sea. Drink salt, and with the wind. Soar. Like combining all intents turns them colorless. Embrace all connections and become impermanence. But in the end, Ho Woon is finally drawn into the phenomena extinguishing mantra. As they are pulled in and annihilated, our eyes meet. At the moment of their annihilation, as if they have laid down all the suffering of life. Even in their true immortal state. Their faces visible. That is the way, to reach the stars. Ho Woon is compressed into a single point. And I stare at that condensed mass of light for a long while. I had sworn never to consume a pill formed like this. However, more important than that oath, is Ho Woon's will. Ho Woon undeniably, sincerely wished to be of help to me by being consumed. My disciples, and countless others as well. There were things I wished from them, but many of them desired an end of their own choosing, and I have long since realized that granting their wishes is, in fact, the better path. But still, this alone is, truly, difficult. How many tears do I shed while agonizing over it? Finally, I close my eyes and place that light into my mouth. Goo. I feel my power as a great net immortal increasing. At the same time, Ho Woon's enlightenments are naturally transmitted to me. This is the repentant enlightenment that Ho Woon realized. Before my eyes, Ho Woon's world faintly appears. A world of endlessly unfolding snow mountains. In one corner of this world of snow mountains, a snow fox with 9 tails looks at me, then scatters into the blizzard and vanishes. On this day, after falling into Mount Sumeru, for the first and last time, I consume a cultivator pill. The taste of the pill I eat for the first time is unbearably bitter. Goo. I stand before the swallowing heaven supreme deity. I feel it. The swallowing heaven supreme deity is pleased to see me. It must be because I have achieved great completion in the flawless mantra. At the same time, I sense it. That I am able to return Guiyi, the swallowing heaven supreme deity to me. Of course, due to the difference in rank, it's closer to merging and becoming one rather than returning to. I watch as I give a bitter smile. It feels like the swallowing heaven supreme deity is gesturing to me. As if pleading, begging to become one with them. But I only offer a small bow to the swallowing heaven supreme deity and turn away. Thank you, swallowing heaven. I have power I have accumulated on my own. Outside of Ho Woon, I need no pill. Goo. Having made my resolve, I raise the impermanence sword in one hand. And with the power of the impermanence sword fully drawn, I swing and cut my own neck. Shukwick, I vanish using heavenly escape. Through 1,000 instances of Yang pitch and Yin pitch, triple divinity has already become quite complete. In an instant, I step into the domain of purity and direct my will toward the distant elephant nose heavenly domain. When I open my eyes, it will be the elephant nose heavenly domain. And thus, the long years in the twin holding heavenly domain finally come to an end. Goo. Surfacing my consciousness within the domain of purity, I awaken. This place is nebulae are spread everywhere, and there's also a dreamlike sensation in the atmosphere. I've come to the right place. Sensing the aura of my comrades in the distance, I take a single step forward. The place I arrive at is the center of the elephant nose heavenly domain. A colossal palace of mist. I feel an overwhelming presence within the palace, and I walk boldly toward its source. I can also feel the trace of my comrades inside. How long do I walk through the palace? I eventually reach its inner depths. I stop for a moment before a massive gate of mist. Goo. Moments later, as if detecting me, the gate of mist opens on its own, and I step into the inner royal chamber. Goo. At last, what appears before my eyes is a giant god of mist who gives a hazy feeling as if in a dizzying dream. It is the progenitor of the human race, the naming supreme deity Hyeon Rang. This lowly great net immortal crystal glass being greets the high spirit grand Tao 9 heavens overseeing fate preserving life celestial great emperor. Welcome, Ender. This emperor is the naming supreme deity, the immortal beast Pangu, and the progenitor of the human race, Hyeon Rang. You may call me Hyeon Go. Wu Wang. Hyeon Rang's voice hums throughout the entire palace, and at their feet, my comrades are seated. I look up at Hyeon Rang. Wu Wang. As I thought, Hyeon Rang's massive body appears to be made of mist, and looking closely, I see 4 overlapping figures. A white-haired child, a white-haired youth, a white-haired adult, a white-haired elder, and among them, the figure of the adult wearing a black robe looks exactly the same as the one I knew. Song Jin. If Hong Fan was at least subtly different from Song Jin, the naming supreme deity feels as if Song Jin just changed his hair color, grew giant, and is now sitting there mocking me. I immediately speak the question I've long held curiosity about. This lowly great net crystal glass being wishes to ask the naming supreme deity a question. Speak. Just what is the supreme deity's relationship with the head realm? The head realm. Then, Hyeon Rang's following words hit my mind with a shock as if someone had struck me across the skull. I suppose I should introduce myself again. This emperor is Hyeon Rang, the progenitor of the human race and the rightful heir Geogya DZ of the head realm. TLN. Geogya DZ basically means the eldest son born from the official legitimate wife, so the one with the highest status among the sons and the one who would inherit the family. Pardon. At the same time, unlike Other true immortals who, once escaping the head realm, are not born there again, one who is reborn in the head realm every generation, always as the same being, and regardless of what twists and turns they experience, eventually rises as the same naming supreme deity each time. A kind of innate supreme deity. That is this emperor. Welcome to the elephant nose heavenly domain, my sibling. Translator notes. The story behind Candle Law Race Chogbyabjog is that Tremendous apparently got beaten up by a minor too young to be prosecuted Chogbobsanion. Candle Law Chogbob can also mean being in conflict with the law. Chapter 633. Golden Speed Heavenly King Jin Chuan Tian Wang 2. Quote. The head realms, rightful heir. Innate supreme deity. When I panic, my comrades seem to notice and turn to look at me. Only then do I feel a familiar presence lying ahead of them. Quote. Exclamation mark. Kim Young-hoon. It is Kim Young-hoon. To that, I immediately run toward Kim Young-hoon. Quote. Exclamation mark. Everyone, what is going on? Eun-yun, you came. Just as we conveyed through Hong Fan. Master told us that Young-hoon Hung Nim's mind is flying this way from the outer sea. And for Young-hoon Hung Nim's spirit to enter Mount Sumeru, Master said our strength is needed, so we left you behind for a moment. I see, I'm fine, but, then Young-hoon Hung Nim is. For now, it looks like we'll need your help, Seo Eun-yun. Jaeon Myung-hoon speaks. Currently, Kim Young-hoon's head is covered in light pink consciousness threads, and they are coming from Kim Yeon. I don't know exactly what's going on right now, but Hung Nim's mind is surrounded by something like a strong firewall. Because of that, his mind is trapped and he can't regain consciousness. The spirit has returned, but since there's no consciousness, Kim Yeon is trying to surface his consciousness as much as she can using her threads. He looks at me as he speaks. And according to the words of the naming supreme deity here, to awaken Young-hoon Hung Nim's mind, something called triple divinity is required. And apparently, you're the only one among us who has learned it. Got it. Without saying anything else, I immediately draw the impermanence sword on the spot. Sirring, I point the impermanence sword toward Kim Young-hoon's head. So that's it. Right now, Young-hoon Hung Nim is using his own triple divinity to seal his consciousness. What's going on? For now, it seems I am needed. Yeon-ah, when I give the signal, pull your consciousness out. You might get hurt otherwise. I have to pour in a lot of strength to the point I can't be distracted considering for Kim Yeon, so her consciousness might be damaged. Alright, then pull out on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Shwairik, Kim Yeon's consciousness threads withdraw, and I bring the impermanence sword down toward Kim Young-hoon's spirit. At the same time, my impermanence sword digs through Kim Young-hoon's spirit, which is sealed by triple divinity, and forcefully tears apart the powerful seal. That's when it happens. Flash, Kim Young-hoon's eyes snap open. A little later, he blinks several times, then slowly raises his body. This place is. Hung Nim, are you awake? I ask cautiously, and Kim Young-hoon looks at me briefly before properly glancing around at all of us. And shortly after, he presses his hand to his face and grits his teeth. Drip, drip, quote. It's not a dream. Yeah, it really is, all of you. Kim Young-hoon staggers as he gets up. We support him as he rises, and Kim Young-hoon embraces all of us. I missed you. It was such a long, long time. I truly missed you. Kim Young-hoon trembles as he holds us tight. Looking at the intensely twisted intent within Kim Young-hoon, I feel like I can't even begin to imagine what he must have gone through. And just as I'm about to ask because I'm curious. Shwick. Before I know it, the naming supreme deity, who had been sitting on a massive jade throne beside us, transforms into a proper human form. Now appearing as a sturdy young man dressed in a purple robe, with hair like vapor, he stands with his hands behind his back and speaks to Kim Young-hoon. The emperor is Hyeon Rang, the naming supreme deity. If you've returned from the edge of the outer sea, then you must have heard of me from them. Quote. Right, are you, the substitute Cheon Woon spoke of? Substitute, huh, is that what they said? How laughable, not a substitute, just a fragment of a dream, that's all. Hyeon Rang's expression darkens as his face stiffens. Quote. So then, is there any message you received from Cheon Woon? A message, Yuawhoop. It happens right then. Kim Young-hoon suddenly starts retching and collapses on the spot. Startled, I check his pulse, but surprisingly, there's nothing wrong. Nor do I sense any trace of immortal arts or spells. Nor do I feel anything resembling immortal arts or spells at play. Then, all of a sudden, Away. Quote. Exclamation mark. Quote. Kim Young-hoon vomits a jade green, egg-like object from his mouth. Hyok. As I stare at the egg, for some reason I sense something similar to what I once felt from Young Sung. Then Hyeon Rang approaches us and picks up the jade green egg, now covered in Kim Young-hoon's saliva and stomach acid, without hesitation. After gazing at it for a while, Hyeon Rang's eyes narrow sharply. I see. A remnant of Kakravata Tai Wei. A substance from the boundary, Jingjia. So you truly did reach the end of the outer sea. Hyok. Kim Young-hoon speaks between gasps. Quote. The heavenly venerable of time, Cheon Woon, told me that they placed the information the naming supreme deity seeks inside there. They said you must only view it in a place where light does not reach. Quote. Understood. Then I must seal it until I arrive there. Is there anything else? There isn't, though there is one more message, that belongs to the Enders. I see. Very well, then I'll go seal this. The rest of you, take a moment to rest. Shururuk. Having received the jade green egg from Kim Young-hoon, Hyeon Rang gazes at it with care, then disperses into mist and vanishes from the spot. I watch Hyeon Rang for a moment before turning to ask Kim Young-hoon a question. Hung Nim, just what is going on? And Cheon Woon, are they not the heavenly venerable of time? Quote. Yes. Well, while I was training in the outer sea after asking for help from Hyeon Mu, I felt a disturbance and flew off to somewhere in the outer sea. And somewhere at the edge of the outer sea, in a place called the boundary, I met them. The heavenly venerable of time, the true ultimate eternal life great Emperor Cheon Woon. They told me countless truths about us Enders, how we might escape this world and return home, and much more. Quote. Exclamation mark. Quote. And after hearing much from them, I tried to return to Mount Sumeru. But it was a miscalculation. The outer sea is chaos in its entirety. Distance, concepts, and direction are all twisted, and just swimming through the sea of chaos and finding a path back took me 100 million years. Then, after finding a path and swimming back toward Mount Sumeru, it took me another 1.8 billion years to systematize that process. Kim Young-hoon's complexion grows pale. And at long last, I came back. I've returned. Ha. Perhaps it's because he is seeing us again after so long, he alternates between weeping and laughing before eventually collapsing unconscious on the spot. We fall silent, simply watching Kim Young-hoon for a while. Then, Oh Yun-sok picks him up in his arms, and we all fly with him to the inner guest chamber of the naming supreme deity's palace. I don't know what exactly happened to Hung Nim, but one thing's clear. Let's ask him once he's had some rest. Quote. Understood. And so, we lay Kim Young-hoon on one side of the guest chamber and wait for him to wake up. A pure white hospital room. It's been a long time since I last saw a hospital room like those on Earth, so I gaze out the window with fascinated eyes while sitting on a chair. Outside the window, the familiar scenery of Earth spreads out. It is a temporary soul constructed inside the guest chamber by Kim Yeon. She said she made it to help Kim Young-hoon recover his mental strength after he wakes up. Feeling a sense of awe at the modern civilization one haven't seen in so long, I look at Kim Young-hoon lying asleep on the hospital bed. Quote. Quote. There are many confusing things. The naming supreme deity is an innate supreme deity. Of course, based on what the others explained, it seems that rather than being an innate supreme deity, he is someone whose fate is fixed to become a supreme deity due to the repetition of history. A fate of being born as a mortal in the head realm and becoming a naming supreme deity without exception. That is Hyeon Rang, though that's not much different from being an innate supreme deity. I think about the strangeness of Hyeon Rang. He called me a sibling. Is that just because we are fellow members of the human race, or is there truly some connection between the Enders and Hyeon Rang? I don't know. What is certain is that he is a being similar to the head realm. The sun and moon eyes of the head realm. The eyes of Hyeon Rang that I saw when I first received my name from him. The two are extremely similar, and even the nature of their power is alike. I draw the form of the head realm on paper. Its form is that of rotting flesh and exposed skill. Then, the bone structure of the head realm. Single quote. Song Jin. Right, Song Jin. I recall Song Jin, who always greeted us in the form of a skull. Thinking back, why didn't I realize it? Song Jin, in the form of a ghostly creature with his skull exposed. And the bone structure of the head realm I drew on paper. The two skulls match almost exactly, to a startling degree. Only slight differences exist. The head realm's right heir, does that literally mean one born from the head realm itself, from the decaying corpse realm? Based on what Oh Yun-sok said, that seems to be the case. Beings, born without parents, or who inevitably lose their parents at a young age, who awaken in the head realm at some point, wander through its streets, and at some point learn cultivation methods and ascend to become a supreme deity. Those are called Hyeon Rang. So was Song Jin, also one such Hyeon Rang. Even thinking again, it doesn't feel like Song Jin was Hyeon Rang himself. Thinking about it now, it's easy to distinguish those true immortals who once played the role of mortals. But Song Jin at that time was definitely not Hyeon Rang. If, as he says, Hyeon Rang is a being repeatedly born in the head realm, with a fate fixed as the naming supreme deity and endlessly being produced, then Song Jin feels like one of those products. What is Hyeon Rang, and what are the enders? My mind grows tangled, and I let out a sigh. For now, it seems fastest to ask Hyeon Rang directly when he shows up again. What am I going to figure out just by agonizing over it? Nothing will come out of just worrying. It's true that I lack too much information. I shift my thoughts to another subject. The 4 new immortal arts I obtained this time. The Krita, Treta, Divyapara, and Kali gifted to me by the Obsidian Devil Heavenly King. I bring forth the power of those immortal arts in the void. Strange runic characters that some true immortals in the twin-holding heavenly domain call Sanskrit Fanyu appear before my eyes. These 4 immortal arts revolve around me, emitting a strange melody. This is, for some reason, I feel as if I might become entranced by the melody. And for an instant, I see an illusion of triple divinity spinning before my eyes. Quote. Exclamation mark quote. At the same time, I understand what powers these immortal arts hold. The true name of these immortal arts is the immortal art Mahayuga. The ability of Mahayuga is to momentarily amplify triple divinity, an advanced stage of intent, and forcibly manifest power that surpasses my current realm. To turn the method of wielding triple divinity into an immortal art. Obsidian Devil Heavenly King, were they also someone who learned martial arts? It's when I ponder about them. Blink. Quote. Exclamation mark quote. Kim Young-hoon suddenly opens his eyes. Hung Nim. Quote. It's not a dream. I've really come back. He exhales heavily and rises from the bed. Are you all right? Quote. Quote. When I ask with concern, Kim Young-hoon glances here and there around the hospital room, then chuckles softly. Quote. It's well made. Did Kim Yeon make this? She was always good with her hands, even back at the company. Tap tap. Brushing himself off as he rises, Kim Young-hoon looks outside the hospital room. He gazes at the artificial soul created by Kim Yeon and smiles. It's a scenery I haven't seen in a long while. Really, Earth was a good place. It was. A place where all kinds of magic artifacts lined the streets, where even mortals could easily use them. A land without the tyranny of cultivator clans. Well, that's true. Do. Perhaps noticing that Kim Young-hoon has awakened, Oh Yun-sok comes running and hugs his waist from behind. Hung Nim, you're finally awake. Kim Yeon and Jaeon Myung-hoon also rush over, and we surround the awakened Kim Young-hoon. It's been so long time no. Is your body all? Then, Kim Young-hoon looks around at us and cuts us off. Listen carefully, everyone, he speaks with a grim expression. If we want to return home, there's something we must do. Pardon, I heard it from the heavenly venerable of time. If we want to return home, Hyeon Mu must die. And at Kim Young-hoon's following words, my eyes widen. If we do not hunt the heavenly venerable, we cannot have even the slightest hope of returning home. Good sight heavenly domain, interdimensional void. There, a girl in black martial attire sits above the vestiges of the interdimensional void, eyes half open. So you've finally returned, Golden Speed. As she gazes into the far distance, she slowly rises to her feet. Among this generation's enders, are you the first heavenly king? At the very edge of her gaze. There, something golden, that has completely seized triple divinity, is visible. Then I suppose, it's time to go. To retrieve what I lent Golden Speed all this time. The girl in black martial attire, with eyes of emptiness, begins to walk toward the place bathed in golden light. For all borrowed fate must one day be paid back with interest. The Northern Heavenly Venerable, the true martial Great Emperor Hyeon Mu. The owner of the interdimensional void. In order to hunt the first seed of the 7 Brilliances Kings, the Golden Speed Heavenly King begins to move. Chapter 634. Golden Speed Heavenly King Jin Chuan Tien Wang 3. What do you mean by that? That we have to defeat Hyeon Mu? When I ask in confusion, Kim Young-hoon speaks with gloomy eyes. That is, just as he's about to explain something to us, Kim Young-hoon suddenly glares toward somewhere. Hung Nim, quote. Glaring sharply into the distance, he spits out his words as if chewing them. Quote. She is coming, quote. Exclamation mark. Why you mean Hyeon Mu? Reading a portion of Kim Young-hoon's intent, I recoil in shock and ask. But Kim Young-hoon shakes his head and says, yes, but she is not coming immediately, so there's no need to worry. Most likely, she's trying to descend her true body inside. Only after descending the true body of the heavenly venerable into Mount Sumeru, will she try to fight me, so the battle between us and Hyeon Mu isn't that imminent. I nod, but then realize that Kim Young-hoon immediately grasped both Hyeon Mu's presence, who must be unimaginably far away, and her purpose, and a question arises. There's something I'm curious about, Hung Nim. Right now, are you? And Seo Eun-yun, just as I'm about to ask whether he has gathered all of triple divinity and reached Wuji. Do not call me Hung Nim. Quote. Back in our hometown, it was because of the difference in position that we used positions to address each other. And here, it was due to the age difference that you called me Hung Nim. Well, yes, isn't that natural? You said you've endured for 1.8 billion years, haha. At that point you're more like a grandfather than just Hung Nim. It wasn't 1.8 billion. Pardon, it's probably even longer than that. If any of you are in the Earth Immortal system, try reading my history. Understood. Oh Yun-sok reaches his hand toward Kim Young-hoon. At the same time, he begins reading Kim Young-hoon's history, and after a short while, his eyes become dyed in shock. 100, no, a billion, T10 billion, TT20 billion. Oh Yun-sok's face twists in shock as if his mouth might tear apart, and hearing his words, I also make a face of disbelief. T20 billion years. What in the world is going on? Even Kim Young-hoon seems a little surprised by Oh Yun-sok's words. Oh, T20 billion, was it that much? Pardon, if I were to tell you the process of how I arrived at Sumeru. I once said that fixing the coordinates of Sumeru, becoming accustomed to swimming through chaos, and systematizing it took 1.8 billion years. And, from that point on, I no longer had the confidence to endure that infinite chaos, so I sealed my consciousness using triple divinity. In that state, I had only my spirit body, set, to move toward Mount Sumeru like a rigid machine. So, while dreaming a long dream and falling into sleep, I came close to Mount Sumeru. It was in that state that you all in the naming Supreme Deity received me. I see. I now understand why Kim Young-hoon's mind had been sealed using triple divinity. 20 billion years is a number even I find a bit surprising, but, anyway, it's in that way that I've returned here to see you all. In that case. Even more confused, I ask. Isn't it even more fitting to call you Hung Nim? Well, it's fine if Oh Yun-sok or the others call me that. What, then, but you don't need to call me that. Quote. Pardon, because among us, the one who is the oldest, is you. At those words, my gazes of my comrades shift toward me in confusion. At the same time, I erase all expressions from my face and meet Kim Young-hoon's eyes. Eun-yun, what does that mean? I think I get it, but don't try to understand. There must be a reason that guy's saying something like that. Oh Yun-sok blinks, and Jaeon Myung-hoon chuckles knowingly and stops Oh Yun-sok. I calmly look at Kim Young-hoon and speak. Quote. Of course, I am somewhat older. But, I've never lived through something like 20 billion years like Young-hoon Hung Nim. 20 billion years, Huhut. Seo Eun-yun, I'm sorry to say this, but, isn't it possible that you've spent a great deal of time that you don't remember? Quote. There definitely must be days that you cannot remember, isn't that right? Quote. At those words, I gaze at Kim Young-hoon with deep eyes. Then I speak. Quote. You, tap. Kim Young-hoon pats me on the shoulder and gives a faint smile. I'll explain in detail once everything is over. And, when we return to Earth, I'll make it up to you for blowing up your house last time. So keep that in mind. Pardon, Hung Nim blew up Eun-yun's house. Something like that happened. When did that? Oh Yun-sok scratches his head, and I stare blankly at Kim Young-hoon. Kim Young-hoon waves his hand. Pasasasasa. With just a single gesture, the temporary soul and hospital room that Kim Yeon created are sliced at the molecular level and scattered. At the same time, the naming supreme deity's guest chamber is revealed. A massive, cozy space within a nebula, where ordinary true immortals or divine beings can come and rest. That is the guest chamber of the naming supreme deity. Passing by everyone, Kim Young-hoon gathers a reasonable amount of dust clouds and sits on them, then speaks. First, let me say this to everyone. I have risen to the realm of Heavenly King. This is a certain point that only ascenders can reach, and the rank of Heavenly King can be said to correspond to the heavenly venerable rank among governing immortals. A certain radiance flows from Kim Young-hoon's eyes. Simultaneously, a certain tangwa appears, depicting an image of a Buddha with 2 wings and 2 arms making an Abhayamudra. That golden Buddha supports a golden divinity shaped like the sun behind its head, and the moment I see it, I immediately realize that Kim Young-hoon has obtained all of triple divinity. At the same time, I see 1004 shadows emanating from Kim Young-hoon. As I look at those shadows, I can see familiar faces among them. Yes, the one before my eyes. Drip. Ah, tears fall from my eyes. When we enders reach a certain point in our cultivation and realize the principle that pierces through our lives, we all transform Washion as beings known as the 7 brilliances kings. Starting from the very first, a being formed by the fusion of each Kim Young-hoon from every cycle. Yes, the one who understands my loneliness, my isolation, this vain regression. It is my first comrade. Drip, drip, I cannot put into words the overwhelming emotion and gratitude. Tears stream down my face as I sob uncontrollably. Yes, that is what it is. An ender who reaches Heavenly King no longer becomes influenced by regression. Overwhelmed by a flood of gratitude and emotions that shakes my entire being, and unable to come to my senses, I collapse on the spot, gasping. This single moment of emotion shakes me far more intensely than any pain or torture the world has inflicted upon me. Kim Yeon supports me and looks at me with worried eyes, but upon seeing my intent, she smiles in relief. Kim Young-hoon looks at me briefly, then continues his explanation. There are a total of 7 types of 7 brilliances kings. Golden Heavenly King, Red Pearl Heavenly King, Lapis Lazuli Heavenly King, Silver Heavenly King, Tridacna Heavenly King, Agate Heavenly King, and Obsidian Heavenly King. These 7 Heavenly Kings have slightly different names depending on the fate each ender has realized. A representative example is the Tridacna Vast Cold Heavenly King. Previously, it is said that the name used to be almost fixed as Tridacna Love Heavenly King. However, after the appearance of the Vast Cold Heavenly Lord, the immortal title Vast Cold became forcibly engraved throughout the entire universe, causing the name of Tridacna Heavenly King itself to become twisted. Wo Wang, Kim Young-hoon draws his saber. His saber is dyed in golden light. Chic, he swings his saber, and a wave of golden saber light brushes past us. What I want to say is this. Depending on the interpretation, each ender pushes forward, the titles of the Heavenly Kings change each time. Of course, they are fixed to some extent, and the essence itself doesn't change since the essence of the 7 Heavenly Kings is constant, but one thing is certain. Within that golden wave, we can feel countless emotions. Joy, anger, sorrow, pleasure, love, hatred, desire. Interpretation. If the heavenly venerables govern things like the underworld, reincarnation, time, and nothingness, then the 7 brilliances kings are heavenly venerables that govern the very concept of interpretation itself. Quote. Exclamation mark quote. The mindset to declare how to interpret all beings of this world, and how to live, that is our unique right and authority. It sounds almost arrogant and prideful. But none of us can dare rebuke him as arrogant. Because the golden wave emitted by Kim Young-hoon is showing us all possibilities itself. And at the same time, that golden wave filled with countless possibilities is displaying an absolute power that no one can resist. We all tremble, because we recognize where we've felt this absoluteness before. Fate and history, it's from the power known as the 3 great absolute laws of Mount Sumeru. A heavenly venerable is one who reaches the absolute. And, as I rose to Heavenly King, I realized that what we enders, Heavenly King designates, gained is, to be precise, what we gained as we became enders, comes from this power known as the 3rd absolute. Kugugugugu. The golden wave that sweeps over us soon takes on a form, and that form is Mount Sumeru shaped like an inverted cone. At that moment, the true structure of Mount Sumeru appears before our eyes. I can recognize it immediately, as it matches the structure I have sensed since reaching the realm of Great Net Immortal. The Mount Sumeru Kim Young-hoon created takes the shape of an inverted cone. And inside that inverted cone are countless worlds and living beings, 9 universes, and outside Mount Sumeru, the power of 11 mighty presences can be felt. The structure of Mount Sumeru created by Kim Young-hoon inverts and normalizes. At that moment, we come to understand. We realize the positions of the 11 mighty presences outside Mount Sumeru. As you can see, the 6 supreme deities all succeeded in leaving Mount Sumeru, but they are only at the bottom. However, the 4 heavenly venerables are different. Heavenly punishment, great mountain, liberation, emptiness, swallowing heaven, naming. The 6 supreme deities reside at the base of Mount Sumeru, the beginning of the mountain, so to speak. And underworld, time, void, sal tree. The 4 heavenly venerables. They are at the midsection of Mount Sumeru. There, they encircle Mount Sumeru like a belt, and devour more of the radiance emitted from the summit than anyone else. That radiance is golden. Among the heavenly venerables, underworld, time, and sal tree are condensing the golden radiance flowing from the summit. However, upon closer look, the radiance emitted from the summit actually consists of 8 kinds. Aside from the golden radiance, there is a pure gold light, subtly different from the golden hue. A red light like a red pearl. A blue light like lapis lazuli. A distant silver light like the galaxy. A soft pink light, beautiful like tridacna. A mottled dark red light like agate. A pitch black light like obsidian. These are the 7 types of light. Among the 4 heavenly venerables, 3, underworld, time, and sal tree, are devouring that golden light. But, one of them is different. He points to someone, the heavenly venerable of void, the true martial great emperor Hyeon-mu. Where he points, among the belts encircling Mount Sumeru, is a pitch black band. Those 7 types of lights, excluding the golden light, are precisely the identity of our authority. And, the pitch black band, it holds the exact same energy as the interdimensional void. Only Hyeon-mu, the one called the god of martial arts, unlike the other heavenly venerables, absorbs our authority. It is so, unlike the other heavenly venerables, only Hyeon-mu devours the 7 lights. As long as Hyeon-mu exists, we cannot return home through the summit of Mount Sumeru, through the audience chamber. Because Hyeon-mu exists as a heavenly venerable by feeding on our authority. Ultimately, we are practically caught within Hyeon-mu's attraction force. Therefore, in order to return home, we must first destroy the bridle that is Hyeon-mu. Kim Young-hoon declares as his eyes gleam with golden light. The interpretation of my power is speed. Only speed that transcends all things is my true authority. Thus, I interpreted myself as the golden speed heavenly king. Kugugugu. The tangwa that floats behind his back spreads its wings and begins to overlap with Kim Young-hoon. As the golden speed heavenly king, I ask you all, I must go home. So all of you, please help me subjugate Hyeon-mu. That day, we come face to face with the will to hunt a heavenly venerable, one who holds the worst possible compatibility with our very authority. Chapter 635. Heavenly Venerable Hunting 1. Kuguging, Heavenly King Heavenly Domain, the Palace of Radiance at the center of the universe. There, the Radiance 8 Immortals are gathered. The first seat of the Radiance 8 Immortals, the Great Forest Heavenly Lord, speaks in a heavy voice. Did you all feel it? Yes, it is still being felt in real time. They all simultaneously gaze toward the space that exists between heavenly domains. They look into the inner seas of Mount Sumeru. The Rain-Dew Heavenly Lord mutters in a hardened voice. The Northern Heavenly Venerable True Martial Great Emperor, the Heavenly Venerable of Void, is. The 8 Immortals, each with hardened expression, tremble as they watch something descending deep within the depths of the inner seas. They are drawing in Gandhara Gien Tuoluo into the inside of Mount Sumeru. The Sword Spear Heavenly Lord asks at those words. Should we not block void immediately? It is impossible. When the heavenly venerables confront us inside Mount Sumeru only with their incarnations from outside, it requires time, void, and sal tree to combine their strength just to oppose us. But if they drag Gandhara Gien Tuoluo, which is outside Mount Sumeru, into the interior and descend. To the Sword Spear Heavenly Lord's question, the Rain-Dew Heavenly Lord explains with a hardened voice. Each one of the heavenly venerables is on par with Great Mountain. On top of that, they are practically undying. In a long-term battle, we must assume they would overwhelm the Great Mountain Supreme Deity. Then that means, yes, if it is the current Hyeon-mu who is descending Gandhara, then we Radiance 8 Immortals must give it our all to stop them. And this, just when our long-cherished wish is right before our reach. Anyway, as you all know, the only times when the Heavenly Venerable of Void descends Gandhara are when facing off against the Heavenly Venerable of the Underworld or hunting the Enders. Since we are not the target, let us simply observe and hope for the mutual destruction between the two. There is no need to worry, Sword Spear. At the Rain-Dew Heavenly Lord's words, the Sword Spear Heavenly Lord nods as if understanding and leans back in their seat. However, watching Sword Spear in that moment, the Rain-Dew Heavenly Lord feels a sense of déjà vu. For some reason, when the Heavenly Venerable of Void was said to be hunting the Enders, there seemed to be a strong emotional wave from the Sword Spear Heavenly Lord. Well, it must be a misunderstanding. With the Heavenly Venerable of Void descending, the plane of soul won't be functioning properly, so I must have felt it that way because emotions are warping strangely. At any other time, maybe, but at least right now, this is no time to be suspecting one another over something like this. This is a time when all must gather and give their all for the destruction of the immortal family. Pointless division must be avoided. Thinking so, the Rain-Dew Heavenly Lord shifts their gaze away from the Sword Spear Heavenly Lord. Kugugu. Sun and Moon Heavenly Domain, the Bright Cold Realm. Cedar Wood Grove. There, countless Heart Tribe members are rampaging wildly. Some Heart Tribe members, rather pleased, begin actively greeting other Heart Tribe members, while several with weaker willpowers fail to endure the fear and end up taking their own lives. The Supreme Council of the Heart Tribe tries to bring the Heart Tribe under control, but no one listens to their words anymore. This is because all within Cedar Wood Grove are finding it difficult to sense intent and are beginning to lose their own manifestations. It is a phenomenon similar to when the Enders disappear, plunging the Cedar Wood Grove into utter chaos. Fortunately, the Bright Cold Martial Alliance, which once worshipped Kim Young-hoon, values the righteousness he taught and begins contributing to the stabilization of Cedar Wood Grove. Bright Cold Realm, Heavenly Lotus Mountain. There, the newly appointed Sacred Master of the Bright Cold Realm constantly offers prayers to Radiance Hall, watching the twisting plane of soul. Yet, not a single response comes from Radiance Hall. As if to say it is none of their concern. Sumeru 3 Heaven's Great Thousand Worlds. Those who cultivate consciousness methods, or those who cultivate the ghost path methods simultaneously perceive that something has gone wrong with their cultivation methods. Because one of the three planes intricately tied to their methods, the entire plane of soul, is beginning to twist under the influence of something. At the same time, the entire interdimensional void where the middle realm zones are located starts to ripple and shake. The Heavenly Venerable of Void Hyeon Mu. The very act of them trying to descend their true body inside Mount Sumeru is affecting the entirety of the three heavens' great thousand worlds. Elephant Nose Heavenly Domain. There, we immediately realize something is wrong. The plane of soul, forget the fact that the interdimensional void, one of the dimensions, is rippling. But the plane of soul, one of the three planes, is beginning to surge wildly, becoming blurry and then distinct, over and over. At the same time, the intent and consciousness domain, excluding triple divinity, is shaking violently. Even my own spirit is being affected. What in the world? As I'm taken aback, Kim Young-hoon speaks with a hardened expression. Hyeon Mu is descending their main body. This phenomenon will likely repeat for a few months. Then shouldn't we deal with them before they fully descend? Kim Young-hoon starts moving somewhere, and we follow him. The place Kim Young-hoon arrives at is within the palace of the naming supreme deity. It is before the empty jade throne that lies there. That is impossible. Rather, we must wait for the moment Hyeon Mu descends, then act. Why is that? Look, Kim Young-hoon points. Behind Hyeon Rang's jade throne is a scroll. Upon that scroll, made of black ancient paper, are a total of 11 names. It's a hanging scroll written with names starting with the Heavenly Venerable of Void Hyeon Mu, and ending with the Radiance Supreme Deity Hyuksa. Oh Yun-sok explains to me. That is Master's immortal registry. Based on the immortal titles given to the supreme deities, it roughly indicates their current state and location. At the same time, it also bestows the power of names upon the supreme deities. Is that so? Then, why bring us here? Regardless of how they are inscribed, Heavenly Venerables and Supreme Deities are always marked separately. Indeed, that is the case. The 4 Heavenly Venerables are placed slightly apart at the top of the registry, and the 7 Supreme Deities are placed slightly apart at the bottom. That is because the Heavenly Venerables are beings who have attained undying. One of the major reasons for their undying lies in the fact that their main bodies exist outside of Mount Sumeru, where, unlike inside, the concept of life and death does not apply. Kim Young-hoon's words continue. According to the diagram of the true immortal realm, the presence of the supreme deities clearly resides at the bottom of Mount Sumeru. However, while they may exit Mount Sumeru, they cannot completely escape it. Because of this, they are not entirely free from life and death, and although they might move freely to the lower part of Mount Sumeru, they cannot climb beyond its midpoint while outside. To be precise, while Kim Young-hoon is explaining, a familiar face appears among us. Song Jin, no, it is Hyeon Rang, who has the exact same face as Song Jin. Looking at Hyeon Rang, I suddenly feel confused, and I summon Hong Fan and the rest of my immortal treasures from within my body so we can all listen to the current explanation together. Hong Fan stares intently at Hyeon Rang, and for a brief moment, their eyes meet. Hyeon Rang blinks, then speaks in a tone of curiosity. Seems to be from the head realm. What did I do in the head realm before I ascended? Does his transformation body resemble mine because he was influenced by my power? Interesting. And that's all. Hyeon Rang turns his attention away from Hong Fan and tries to continue explaining, while Hong Fan continues staring at Hyeon Rang as if entranced. Hong Fan's gaze seems almost deeply affectionate, as if seeing a yearn for brother or friend. Or maybe, someone even deeper. But in the next moment, Hong Fan erases all emotion from his eyes as he looks at Hyeon Rang. Rather than looking as if he is hiding emotion, it's as if Hong Fan feels he isn't worth caring about. Without bothering to be troubled over naming, Hong Fan simply focuses on what naming is saying. Single quote. What is that reaction? Strange. I take note of Hong Fan's odd response, then turn my attention to Hyeon Rang's words. After true immortals rise to the immortal realm, they come to seize a domain there. That domain gradually expands over time, and when they become a great net immortal, they completely take control of that domain. Furthermore, when they become an immortal lord, they obtain the source of their immortal Tao that serves as the origin of their domain, giving the domain an immense independence. And so, it starts to separate from Mount Sumeru. Finally, upon becoming a supreme deity, their domain completely transcends to outside Mount Sumeru. In short, the presence of supreme deities who exist in the lower part of Mount Sumeru is proof that they have transcended Mount Sumeru. Their jade thrones are the materialization of their domains. A supreme deity is one who has established a jade throne with their domain outside of Mount Sumeru, and as long as that throne exists, the supreme deity can, no matter where in the heavenly domains of Mount Sumeru they are, even if they are blocking the entrance of the audience chamber at the vertex, always head toward the lower part of Mount Sumeru. Toward the entrance of the Salt Sea. Kim Young-hoon, who is still only at the heavenly being stage within the immortal cultivation system, doesn't seem to know this well and listens quietly to Hyeon Rang's explanation. But just as Kim Young-hoon here, as Golden Speed has said, they have merely established a seat in the lower part of Mount Sumeru and have not fully transcended it. Thus, they are still subject to the principle of life and death and, if slain, can indeed be annihilated. But the heavenly venerables are different. They are beings who have truly transcended Mount Sumeru. Are they not beings who have merged with Mount Sumeru? I recall the words of Black Dragon and ask, and Hyeon Rang shakes his head. That would be the supreme deities. I don't know who you learned from, but it seems there's a slight misunderstanding of the concept. Quote. In any case, they are beings who have transcended Mount Sumeru, and thus possess the qualification to climb it. Quote. Therefore, they began their ascent from the outside of Mount Sumeru, and now, each of them is halted at the highest point of Mount Sumeru they can reach, its midpoint. The inner counterpart of this location corresponds to the Heavenly King Heavenly Domain. That's where they now stand. Because of this, though they have transcended life and death of Mount Sumeru, they linger near the Heavenly King Heavenly Domain, and are able to intervene across Mount Sumeru's entirety. From Hyeon Rang's words, I understand what Kim Young-hoon is trying to say. Then, the talk about needing to wait for Hyeon Mu's main body is. Yes, Hyeon Mu is now descending their own true body, which has transcended life and death, back into the interior of Mount Sumeru in order to hunt down the Golden Speed Heavenly King. When that happens, since the body that had transcended life and death has returned to the Saha world, life and death will come into existence again. Quote. So, you are saying we can only kill Hyeon Mu once they summon their true body. Indeed, what Kim Young-hoon is trying to say is that only by waiting for Hyeon Mu to summon her true body can we see the possibility of killing her. However, Kim Young-hoon shakes his head. That's not what I mean. Even setting aside the matter of not having fused with Mount Sumeru, Hyeon Mu will not die easily. Pardon, such are the existence of heavenly venerables. Even if they cross back over the boundary of life and death, they are effectively undying. With our strength, we cannot kill Hyeon Mu. And, even though I said we need to kill Hyeon Mu, it will be rather difficult. He continues with a hardened expression. That's why, rather than killing Hyeon Mu, our goal must be to inflict as fatal a wound as possible. You mean, yes, even if we don't kill them, if we can at least render Hyeon Mu unable to interfere with us for the next few thousand years, then our chances of returning home will increase. Quote. Among my immortal treasures listening to our conversation, Yohi laughs as if delighted at those words. Ha ha ha, even if they are a heavenly venerable, if we're not killing them but just turning them into a half-cripple, it won't be that hard. Besides, isn't Hyeon Mu the weakest of the heavenly venerables? At those words, Hyeon Rang looks at Yohi with sorrowful eyes. Quote. What in the world are you saying, descendant of Glass Peacock? Pardon, haha, I am familiar with that immortal registry. Yohi points behind Hyeon Rang's jade throne and speaks. Is that not the immortal registry that denotes the authorities of the current supreme deities and heavenly venerables of the governing immortals? From what I know, the lower a name appears on the immortal registry, the stronger the supreme deity or heavenly venerable, while the higher names are the weaker governing immortals. Isn't that why the heavenly venerable of the underworld and the radiant supreme deity are each at the very bottom of the heavenly venerable and supreme deity groups, and right above them are the heavenly venerable of time and the great mountain supreme deity? At those words, Oh Yun-sok sighs and responds. Quote. There's a misunderstanding, twin constructing chains. The order on Master's immortal registry is indeed arranged with the lower positions being stronger. Pardon, then does that not mean I am right? The issue is, that strength is not based on authority. The immortal registry isn't sorted by the order of the true authorities of the heavenly venerables and supreme deities. It's arranged based on how strongly they influence the fate of Mount Sumeru. Quote. At the top of the Supreme Deity and Heavenly Venerable columns, the Heavenly Punishment Supreme Deity and the Heavenly Venerable of Void are listed there because one is imprisoned, and the other is emptiness itself, completely uninterested in all matters of the world. On the other hand, the Heavenly Venerable of the Underworld and the Radiant Supreme Deity are placed where they are because they exert powerful influence over Mount Sumeru. Oh Yun-sok lets out a sigh and mutters. The Heavenly Venerable of Void is by no means one of the weaker Heavenly Venerables in terms of might. It is only because they have no interest in anything other than suicide that they have no faction, making their influence weak. In fact, according to Master, in terms of might, they are one of the only three governing immortals, alongside Great Mountain and Underworld, who can resist something called the calling of Radiance Hall. Hyeon Rang nods. The belt of Mount Sumeru where the four heavenly venerables reside is known to higher beings as Gandhara Jiantuo Luo. Originally, this name was something created by this immortal and Radiance Hall combining our strengths to restrain the four heavenly venerables, but a certain ender from the Obsidian Devil Heavenly King's generation used Obsidian's power and changed it. Wo Wang. Above Hyeon Rang's hand, the structure of Mount Sumeru appears. Gandhara refers to the deepest depths of the underworld, Source River, Interdimensional Void, and Eastern Heaven Flower Field. At the same time, they are the locations of each heavenly venerable's jade throne, and can be said to refer to the main bodies of the heavenly venerables themselves. With a solemn expression, he continues speaking. When Hyeon Mu descends into Mount Sumeru dragging along her own Gandhara, the expected power level will be, excluding the current Great Mountain, just below the Radiant Supreme Deity and the Heavenly Venerable of the Underworld. Quote. But precisely because of that, if Hyeon Mu starts rampaging at this moment, all the fates of Mount Sumeru will be thrown into disarray, and history will be twisted. Moreover, the plans of this emperor will be ruined as well. Hyeon Rang reaches a hand out to us. It may seem like I am intervening out of nowhere, but to this emperor, this matter is also grave. Therefore, this emperor will aid you enders. The estimated time for Hyeon Mu's Gandhara to descend is about 108 days. Until 108 days from now, before you begin the Heavenly Venerable battle, this emperor promises to fully support you without reservation. And so, we end up gaining Hyeon Rang's support. There's no avoiding it. The clash with the true martial Great Emperor Hyeon Mu is something that must take place. Thus, bolstered by Hyeon Rang's support, we begin preparations for the Heavenly Venerable hunt that is to come in 108 days. Chapter 636, Heavenly Venerable Hunting 2. The time remaining until the descent of the Heavenly Venerable of Void is a total of 108 days. Within that time, we must refine everything we can. First, the fastest way to grow would be for you to receive a name from this immortal. Hyeon Rang proposes this to Kim Young-hoon, but Kim Young-hoon rejects it immediately. I don't need it. Power gained through such unorthodox methods just ends up being cumbersome because I can't adapt to it. Well, do as you wish. In that case, let me recommend a way for you all to strengthen yourselves in a short time. He looks around at each of us in turn and continues speaking. First, Golden Speed Heavenly King. You say you don't need unorthodox methods since you can't adapt to them, but what about a weapon? A weapon? Yes, I know where a weapon perfectly suited for you is. Where is it? The place you all came from. The Sun and Moon Heavenly Domain. Hyeon Rang points somewhere as he smiles. I heard you all created a place called Cedarwood Painting in the Sun and Moon Heavenly Domain, isn't that right? Well, that's true, but on the reverse side of that cedarwood painting lies the enlightenment of the previous Golden Body Heavenly King. Enlightenment, something like that exists. Yes, to be exact, Red Lotus, Prajna, Dragon Flower. It is an enlightenment regarding the manifestation of the heart tribe of the Heavenly Venerable of the Underworld. Quote. I learned something new. The realms of Red Lotus, Prajna, and Dragon Flower all refer to stages of heart tribe manifestation used by the underworld side. Your predecessor Golden Body Heavenly King had a different authority than you, so their level of manifestation only reached Red Lotus. However, they completely mastered the method of manifestation through the unorthodox method used by the Heavenly Venerable of the Underworld and recorded that enlightenment in a mandala there. Quote. I see. I come to understand the truth behind the mandala of cedarwood painting that I once researched with Kim Young-hoon. Go seek out that mandala and look at it again. If you do so, you will be able to see what you couldn't see before, and you will be able to refine the mandala left behind by the previous golden body into a weapon suitable for you. That itself was a preparation made for the future golden body. Thank you for the advice. Kim Young-hoon nods and begins to stretch, seemingly preparing to head to cedarwood painting. Hyeon Rang then turns to Jaeon Myung-hoon. The fastest way you can become stronger in a short time is the treasure vault of Yongsu-jin. I assume you've already searched its interior. I have. There were many immortal treasures Yongsu-jin left behind. Though without the main rituals, I'd have to capture some sacred masters or something. Use the treasure vault of Yongsu-jin itself. I'm a bit sorry to heavenly punishment, but, given the situation, I have to tell you this. Yongsu-jin's treasure vault is, in and of itself, also a prison meant for the heavenly lightning banner. Quote. Quote. Through Yongsu-jin's treasure vault, find the heavenly lightning banner and abduct her. Then, using the suppressive power of the treasure vault, subdue the heavenly lightning banner and extract only Zhengli's power for your use. That is the way for you to become the strongest in the shortest time. At those words, Jaeon Myung-hoon's eyes blaze. The corners of his mouth lift up as if tearing. Quote. Truly, I am grateful to you. Kook, kookik, koo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Sure, then next. The current lapis lazuli protecting heavenly kings should be studying well under the imperial venerable, and Yun-sok just needs to summon my soul and invoke divine descent into his body, so there's no issue. The current Tridakna, as for you. He turns his gaze to Kim Yeon. You too should go to the Sun and Moon Heavenly Domain. The fastest way for you to grow in a short time is to receive support from the flesh of vast cold and move their physical body. If you were still a mortal being, that would have been impossible, but now that you've reached the level of a great net immortal, you should be able to draw out at least 6/10 of the power of vast cold's body. Kim Yeon nods, and Hyeon Rang's eyes finally turn to me. You've learned the flawless mantra. If you've learned the flawless mantra, then given about 400 million years, you could fully turn the swallowing heaven's supreme deity into an immortal treasure. But since we don't have the heavenly venerable of time, and Young-sung doesn't have the right, that would be difficult. Since you haven't awakened your fate, I can't tell whether you are agate or obsidian. I speak while pondering. I think I'm probably the agate heavenly king. Ha, I see, master. Hong Fan exhales deeply as if intrigued and nods, while I look back on my past lives. My regressions, filled with nothing but pain. And, according to what I once heard from the heavenly venerable of the underworld who took the form of Tae Yal Jaeon, the agate hatred heavenly king symbolizes pain. That being the case, with my life steeped in suffering, I'm highly likely to be the current designate for the agate hatred heavenly king. Oh, Hai Seo is the one with a blackened heart, so she's probably the obsidian devil heavenly king of this generation. At that, Hyeon Rang clicks his tongue in regret. Tisk. If it's agate, then things have gotten even more troublesome. The powers most suitable for agate are either the corpse mountain blood sea in the earth axis heavenly domain of the great mountain supreme deity, or the power of the previous agate. But all previous agates had their preparations completely devoured by the head realm, so there's nothing left. As for the corpse mountain blood sea, I'd rather refuse that one myself. Well, if that's the case, it can't be helped. I'll just teach you how to use ancient force in a short time. Thus, we each part ways in order to refine our powers in a limited time. Ancient force is forgotten history, the remnant of a destroyed world. A faint mist rises over Hyeon Rang's hand. Within the mist, countless scenes seem to appear. Together with Oh Yun Sok, I focus on Hyeon Rang's lesson. Normally, ancient force can be harvested from the center of a planet. This is because forgotten histories and dreams are pulled in by the attraction force toward the center. Memories and histories that could not be remembered by sentient beings, such ancient forces gather and form salt crystal. Of course, they didn't used to take the form of salt crystals, but ever since the appearance of the Salt Sea Supreme Deity, ancient forces have become fixed in the form of salt crystals. Kuririk. The mist above Hyeon Rang's hand gathers and condenses into a mineral that looks like a small lump of salt. In any case, ancient force, which would originally form in small amounts naturally inside planets, began to be produced in much greater quantities due to immortals. For instance, what would happen if an Earth Upper Immortal annihilates a dynasty and revises history as only villains existed in that dynasty, and so it was rightly destroyed by heavenly punishment? What about the good people who lived in that dynasty? Who remembers their dreams and histories? Wo Wang. From the salt crystal visible in Hyeon Rang's hand, a scream echoes forth. In this way, the cherished wishes of those whose very histories were buried by transcendental Earth Upper Immortals appear as ancient force. And as a result, ever since Earth Upper Immortals began roaming freely, ever since history revision began, ancient force has been gushing forth in large quantities. In short, ancient force can be said to be the power of forgotten beings of the past reaching out to beings of the present, asking to be remembered. Quote. In that case, the reason why the canvas of myriad forms and connections is considered as ancient force is. I reflect deeply as I recall my canvas of myriad forms and connections. Kuririk. The salt crystal at the tip of Hyeon Rang's finger begins to change. That is why the head realm is the origin of all ancient force, and the cradle where all ancient force gathers. More precisely, it's the Akashic records in the head realm that serves as the origin. Since all history is recorded in the Akashic records, it is the only existence that acknowledges forgotten history, at least to the extent of what is recorded in it. That is why, it is said that the power of ancient force obtained by Earth Upper Immortals all originates from the head realm. After all, in the end it is the Akashic records that store the forgotten histories, and Earth Upper Immortals who excavate those forgotten histories recorded in the Akashic records and refine them into the form of ancient force. Keying. The form of salt crystal at the tip of Hyeon Rang's finger is shaved down and compressed, taking on the shape of a small skull. It is the appearance of the head realm. You know that immortal beasts can temporarily transcend reality through explosion and are able to access a place known as the River of Scenes, right? Yes. That place is not actually the source river. Pardon, the source river is nothing more than a parasite that imitates that place and feeds off its power. The river of scenes that immortal beasts access is. At Hyeon Rang's continuing words, my eyes widen so much they nearly pop out. It is the Akashic records. More precisely, it's connected to a certain facet of the Akashic records, allowing one to see scenes flowing like a river. In other words, immortal beasts are beings that possess the fundamental right to access the Akashic records. Quote. That means, the river of scenes I connect to every time I regress is not actually the source river, but it was the Akashic records all along. That's right, the river of scenes I enter every time I regress is not the source river, but the Akashic records. Then, every time I experience death, with every regression, I access the Akashic records. In other words, it is no different from entering and exiting the head realm. I can't help but open my mouth at the shocking truth. I see. Those threads I saw then, the ones constantly connecting me to the head realm. They were all proof that I was connected to the Akashic records. In other words, to the head realm. As I tremble at the horrifying truth, Hyeon Rang begins to speak even more shocking truths. Forgotten histories born of history revision become ancient force, and it is said the way to obtain that ancient force is by accessing the Akashic records and thoroughly investigating the forgotten histories recorded there. If so, one might think what Yun Sok is thinking right now. Can just a few bug-like Earth Upper Immortals twisting history really generate that much ancient force? Ahem, forgive me, Master. I don't think of Earth Upper Immortals as bugs. Well, anyway, the important point is this. Just a few Earth Upper Immortals have not been the ones revising the world until now. Wu Wang, the model of the head realm above Hyeon Rang's hand begins to duplicate. Great net immortals, immortal lords, supreme deities, and even the heavenly venerables. All those countless immortals have ceaselessly revised history until now, and the result is the current world. Do you know how much the supreme deities and true lords who followed the history pathway revised Mount Sumeru and created forgotten histories? Do you know how many past enders, how many heavenly kings, have buried history? Swaa! In an instant, the surroundings become a sandy shore made entirely of salt crystals in the form of the head realm. Especially Radiance Hall. They have deliberately buried the truths of this world, the histories, deep within the head realm, deep within the Akashic records. Hyeon Rang continues speaking with a hardened face. The heavenly domains of supreme deities who died resisting Radiance Hall are fed to the head realm after a long time. Even the defeated supreme deities are fed to the head realm. There have even been enders who were born already possessing the authority of universe creation, or heavenly kings who awakened authorities like Mount Sumeru replication or origin essence generation. The heavenly domains they created, the replicated Mount Sumerus, the countless origin essences they made, the countless civilizations they cultivated. With every word Hyeon Rang speaks, his expression darkens further. All those brilliant histories were crushed by Radiance Hall and turned into leftovers of the head realm. Buried deep in the Akashic records, the replicated Mount Sumerus, the newly created origin essences and civilizations, the heavenly domains born from the hands of enders, everything was annihilated and buried deep beneath. And Radiance Hall holds what they call the Supreme Deity Banquet, and through a ritual that erases the ancient forces created in such a way, they have been burying those histories even deeper into the abyss of the Akashic records. He clenches his fist. Pot. With that single gesture, countless salt crystals rush toward Hyeon Rang's grip and explode. Kwang. From the explosion formed in Hyeon Rang's hand, I feel something shake. It is reality itself. The very history we stand upon right now is faintly trembling. That is why, the true power of ancient force is only displayed when it is properly recorded. Even a forgotten history, as long as a single person remembers it, that history is never truly forgotten. It becomes the strength of immortal beasts, and the key to transforming this reality that has been twisted by endless revisions. Wu Wang. A faint mist begins to spill out again from Hyeon Rang's hand, and I flinch in surprise as I look at him. Because that power, it is far too similar to the power of the canvas of myriad forms and connections. From now on, what you must do is record your history from beginning to end, without leaving anything out, and transmute it into immortal art. If you can leave behind your own history as immortal art and prove your own existence through it, then that becomes the most optimal and shortest path to strengthening your authority as an immortal beast. That's right, the canvas of myriad forms and connections I created during the nascent soul stage turns out to be the optimal immortal art for immortal beasts recommended by the former immortal beast King Hyeon Rang. And so, from that day on, I begin to restore the canvas of myriad forms and connections that I collapsed with my own hands. Chapter 637, Heavenly Venerable Hunting 3. I didn't intend to restore the canvas of myriad forms and connections itself. I pull out a norige that has been transformed into an immortal treasure from my waist. Suaa. At the same time, a hornless white deer reveals itself, centered around the norige. For now, I have to strengthen my power for the battle with Hyeon Mu, so let's temporarily revive it just for the time being. Koo-goo-goo-goo-goo-goo. The moment I make up my mind, the stag in front my eyes begins to expand, and the surroundings become shrouded in a pale mist. Simultaneously, Hyeon Rang's eyes widen. This is just what in the world? This much ancient force. He stares at me, seemingly dumbfounded. If it's this much, you could qualify as a candidate for Immortal Beast King even now. Honestly, I'm surprised. And, what even is this, an immortal art that even this immortal can't observe? Hyeon Rang seems to try and peer into the canvas of myriad forms and connections, but even he apparently cannot see inside and clicks his tongue. Quote. It's merely a discarded immortal art. I look at Hyeon Rang and let out a bitter smile. After all, what has been given and received through history resides within me. The past is simply the past. It's just that this time, considering the upcoming battle with Hyeon Mu, I am temporarily restoring it to more smoothly supply ancient force. Quote. Hyeon Rang looks at me for a moment after hearing those words, then suddenly floats something above his hand. Do you know what this is? What is that? I frown as I gaze at the lump of light that exudes a familiar aura for some reason. Hyeon Rang stares at it and speaks. I don't know either. Quote. But one thing is certain. This is connected to you. And it's a power that should go to you. Quote. I realize the identity of what floats above Hyeon Rang's hand. I see. It's a fragment of my desire that I gave him when I first became a true immortal. Originally, if you and Yun-Sok had succeeded in learning the immortal art that this immortal spoke of, this immortal planned to refine this into another name and bestow it upon you then. That's the fastest way to strengthen you. But, for some reason, my instincts as a pure namer, not as a supreme deity, are rejecting it. He once again absorbs what floats above his palm back into his body and hides it. This feels, still, too early to give to you. A name that suits a vessel of your level. A thought comes to mind that I can't hastily create one after only just meeting you. How strange. At that, Hong Fan, who has been attending the same lesson with me, strokes his beard. To think the naming supreme deity would be troubled like this. Your naming alone is in itself a great strength for master. Wouldn't it be better to grant a name now, and later give an even greater one? Quote. My apologies. For now, I offer my apology to you all. Especially you, Seo Eun-yun. My instincts as a namer are screaming. I cannot grant you a name of this level. A name for you must be attempted only after far more history has accumulated and I've come to a much deeper understanding of you. Ignoring Hong Fan's words, he speaks while staring at me with blazing eyes. Hong Fan, too, doesn't press further when his words go ignored and simply steps back. Someday, I will give you a name that fits you perfectly. I promise. Quote. Well, if that's how it is, do as you please. I nod as I look into Hyeon Rang's eyes. If nothing else, his eyes are sincere. I can feel that he sincerely wants to give me a name meant just for me. Hong Fan looks somewhat dissatisfied, but says nothing further. After that, I continue learning from Hyeon Rang the methods of handling ancient force, and how to properly control explosions as a mortal beast. At the same time, I learn methods to extract ancient force from the canvas of myriad forms and connections. Perhaps because I've been continuously connecting to the Akashic records, I absorb Hyeon Rang's teachings surprisingly well, and in the end, I manage to fully understand and master his teachings within just a shichin 2 hours. Oh Yun-Sok still groans and struggles, and I playfully tease him from the side while helping him out. That's when it happens. Woo-wong. Suddenly, a voice transmission arrives from the comrades who went to the Sun and Moon Heavenly Domain. Kim Young-hoon, Kim Yeon, Jaeon Myung-hoon. Each had gone to the Sun and Moon Heavenly Domain for their own reasons, and now it seems one of them has sent something. Not Kim Young-hoon. Is it Jaeon Myung-hoon? Jaeon Myung-hoon did mention he was setting a trap to catch Zhengli in the Sun and Moon Heavenly Domain, so it's probably a request for help with capturing her. However, the voice transmission that arrives from Jaeon Myung-hoon is completely unexpected. This is, as I read the new information Jaeon Myung-hoon claims to have found in the bright cold realm, my expression hardens. His message is filled mostly with details about a recently uncovered plan of Blood Yin. It's mostly information related to Blood Yin, but for us at this point in time, Blood Yin's old plans and oaths are not all that important. What draws my attention, however, is how this information was obtained. Oh Hyeon, she, at the unexpected news, my body trembles. She committed suicide. That's right. It's said Oh Hyeon has committed suicide in the Earth Axis Heavenly Domain. Flash. Through the Great Desolate Path, I arrive at the Earth Axis Heavenly Domain together with Oh Yun-Sok. To be precise, Oh Yun-Sok's main body is still receiving training from Hyeon Rang, and what's next to me now is one of his clones. Kurururung. The outskirts of the Earth Axis Heavenly Domain are filled with remnants of a restriction that Radiance Hall once laid down, and traces left behind by Oh Hyeon using the Corpse Mountain Blood Sea to block it from within. Kuguging. But I ignore all of that and reach out my hand, and at that moment, the dimensional barrier of the Earth Axis Heavenly Domain opens, inviting us inside. Shwaririk. At the same time, the powers of the corpse mountain blood sea that fill the Earth axis heavenly domain twist space as if it's been waiting for us, instantly transporting us before a massive palace. The architectural style resembles that of the Sea Dragon Palace, but everything is tinged with a blood red. Kiak, I push open the door of the Sea Dragon Palace and stride forward to where Ohiseo's history can be felt. The structure of this Sea Dragon Palace is exactly the same as the one Seo Whale had built before, so I quickly grasp its layout and identify the place where she died. Quote. Quote. Oh Yun-sok and I remain silent. And finally, I stop at the place where Ohiseo's history is last severed. This place is, yes. Structurally, it's the room that had once served as Seo Whale's office. Quote. Shall we go in? Quote. Quote. Oh Yun-sok remains silent for a while, and only after some time does he open his mouth. I will see it with my own eyes. Let's go. Quote. Yes. Kiak, what we see as the door opens is, yes, a massive alchemical furnace. Inside the alchemical furnace, which stands on 3 legs, something bubbles and boils. Oh Yun-sok begins to tremble. Both he and I have reached the realm of Earth Upper Immortal. We immediately read the history to know exactly what Ohiseo has done. Quote. Oh, hi, Seo. With a cry that's unclear whether it is sorrow or fury, Oh Yun-sok stumbles forward and tears open the iron cauldron with both hands. Kwang. From inside, the bubbling crimson liquid gushes out, and in the center of that liquid, something like a pure white pill, in the midst of condensing, appears before our eyes. Oh Yun-sok howls as he looks at the pill. Oh hi Seo. I let out a silent sigh at the miserable sight. The moment I see the materials of this pill, history informs me. Seo Whale's bones. And Ohiseo herself. Shwiriririk. Though we do not wish for it, the power of an Earth Upper Immortal instantly shows us the history. Of course, I could have refused to look, but I firmly read her history. The appearance of her gently caressing Seo Whale's bones, after personally building the Sea Dragon Palace where she once lived together with Seo Whale. The appearance of her continuously calling Seo Whale's name, seeking him again and again. She was insane. But, time passed. 10,000 years. She was mad. 100,000 years. She firmly believed Seo Whale would come back to life. 1,000,000 years. She began to think she must resurrect Seo Whale with her own power. 10,000,000 years. Gradually accumulating her cultivation inside, she spread her schemes across the entirety of Mount Sumeru, creating a plan for Seo Whale's resurrection. 50,000,000 years. She slowly began to feel doubt. And then, 70,000,000 years. Her madness began to heal. Could it be because she spent endless years alone, crying out only for Seo Whale? At some point, Seo Whale's bones began to gradually ease her madness, and it became clear that she was slowly returning to her senses. She began to accept Seo Whale's death. But the more she did so, the more she suffered. She couldn't bring herself to accept the fact that she could not see Seo Whale again. And finally, she reunited with me. She seduced Black Dragon and incited them to kill me, causing us to clash. But, in the end, I used the phenomena extinguishing mantra to completely annihilate Black Dragon and Ohiseo's projection, rising to great net immortal. That is what marked the end. The enlightenment of repentant enlightenment contained in the phenomena extinguishing mantra caused Ohiseo projection to undergo repentant enlightenment, completely awakening her. Ohiseo finally realized. Seo Whale, you're not coming back, are you? Master, even the great mountain supreme deity, can't return you, can they? Had it gone well, her madness could have been completely healed through time and my phenomena extinguishing mantra. However, she chose not to heal her madness. I can't give you up. You or me, you gave me meaning. So, a world without you has no meaning. So, I won't let you go. That was Ohiseo's choice. As I read the history, I witness her end with my own eyes. If giving you up means returning to sanity, then I won't give you up. I'll stay like this, stay mad like this, and be with you. With those words, she shoved Seo Whale's bones into the alchemical furnace made from the corpse mountain blood sea. She then added the many immortal beast true bloods she gathered until now, entered the furnace herself, and embraced Seo Whale's bones. She unraveled all her history, spirit, and authority, melting all the possibilities of resurrection into the furnace. In this way, Ohiseo melted away with Seo Whale and closed her eyes. It was fun. If someday someone eats us, let's be born together inside them. Someday, let's meet again. That is Ohai Seo's final moment. I read the history, and read the plane of soul embedded within the history to trace where Ohai Seo's soul has gone. I even sent a voice transmission to Kong Min-hee, but Kong Min-hee only says that Ohai Seo's spirit has not entered the path of reincarnation. She says it is impossible to find where Ohai Seo's spirit has gone. As if her spirit has soared into the heavens. Hai Seo ah, perhaps reading her history together with me, Oh Yun-sok simply sheds tears. Is this the end you wanted? Was there truly no better future? Why, every time your wounds are healed, do you only try to die? Even back then, in Big Brother's Hall of Love, it seems to be a place known only between Oh Yun-sok and Oh Hai Seo. Why do you always make this kind of choice? Oh Yun-sok cries in anguish, and I let out a silent sigh as I watch him. It's always like this. I save my comrades, and block the future where they are helplessly slaughtered by someone. But every time, every day, every moment, even though I save them, and save them, and save them again, there are always those I cannot save. Even though I never had the intention of saving Oh Hai Seo, I could not save Oh Yun-sok from the pain inflicted because of her. Azure Tiger Saint, Oh Hai Seo too, I am always unable to save those related to Oh Yun-sok. Those tied to Oh Yun-sok, I am never able to save them. After I have Oh Yun-sok take the pill formed from Seo Whale and Oh Hai Seo's bodies, I step out from Seo Whale's office. And as I look around the Sea Dragon Palace, I discover that many books scattered throughout contain information about me. They were written by Oh Hai Seo. Most of them focus on targeting my weaknesses, deducing my identity, and laying out plans to defeat me. I can't help but be deeply impressed as I read her journal, where she carefully analyzed my weaknesses and thoroughly documented, one by one, the opportunities I'd encountered and the origins of my power. There are even methods written to exploit weaknesses I have overlooked and immortal arts I've gained but never properly used. As I step outside the Sea Dragon Palace and mentally absorb the most intriguing contents of these books, I suddenly read a passage written at the end by Oh Hai Seo. Seo Eun-yun is my enemy, and my greatest adversary. Because Seo Eun-yun was Seo Whale's greatest adversary. So even if I cannot defeat him, someday, when he returns to life, together with him, gain the starting point to bring Seo Eun-yun down. Seo Whale's greatest adversary. As I read that phrase, a feeling I cannot name washes over me. Warururuk. I burn the book and walk out of the Sea Dragon Palace. Seo Whale, are you there? I glance toward the Sea Dragon Palace for no reason and ask. I know you're there. Come out. But of course, there is no response. If it were before, the bastard who would have answered with something like, "Ho ho, Taoist Seo. So you've noticed," and crawled out from some gloomy shadow. Now no longer replies. And yet, even though I know I will never hear that reply again, for some reason, I feel as if Seo Whale is still alive. Even now it feels like you're still alive, and seem to cling to our shadows no matter what. Even now, even though he's dead, it feels like he is still grasping onto us, unable to let go of his gloomy hand, and still slowly dripping pain upon us. And realizing that, I quietly turn toward the Sea Dragon Palace and speak. Seo Whale, listen well, I sense Oh Yun-sok collecting Oh Hai Seo's remains. From now on, I'm going to properly kill you. Feeling Oh Yun-sok's sorrow and pain, I vow, I will save Oh Hai Seo too. Oh Hai Seo is detestable and irritating. To be honest, I just want to stop getting involved now. But, sadly, she is Oh Yun-sok's family. I'm going to sweep away every part of you that's embedded in Oh Hai Seo's mind, and completely liberate her from you. Do you understand? Therefore, in order to completely wash away Oh Yun-sok's sorrow, I realize that I must save her. So, when I do save Oh Hai Seo someday, stop clinging to us and move on peacefully. With that, I turn away as I watch Oh Yun-sok leave the Sea Dragon Palace carrying her remains. I've made a vow, if I die fighting Hyeon-mu this time and live again, then from that life onward, I will save Oh Hai Seo from Seo Whale's shadow. Protect the family, that is the heart I swore upon while mastering the flawless mantra. And whether she likes it or not, she is the family of my family, Oh Yun-sok. 107 days remain. I steel my heart, thinking of my match with Hyeon-mu. Within that time, I will fill the gaps Oh Hai Seo analyzed in me. Among the weaknesses she analyzed, the one I can resolve right now is the immortal art Mahayuga. Realizing that I've misunderstood how to handle Mahayuga from the beginning, I begin researching the most optimal way to rapidly grow stronger by combining the canvas of myriad forms and connections with Mahayuga. Thus, Kim Young-hoon obtains the legacy of the previous Golden Body Heavenly King at Cedarwood Painting. Jaeon Myung-hoon temporarily succeeds in capturing Zhengli, and Kim Yeon becomes able to move the body of the vast cold Heavenly Lord. Kang Min-hee, saying she shares our will, begins descending into the Saha world with a group of reapers from the netherworld. Oh Yun-sok, pushing his sorrow aside, begins to divine descent the naming supreme deity into his body. The day of the decisive battle begins to draw near. Did you manage to learn that Mahayuga without issues? Kim Young-hoon approaches and asks me. Yes, don't worry, I nod without a problem and reply. If you'd like, Hung Nim, I can apply to you as well. Do you need it? Sure, go ahead. Then, I begin striking Kim Young-hoon's body at specific blood points. At the same time, I infuse various parts of his body with the energy of the immortal art, maximizing the potential lying dormant within him. Kudududuk. Mahayuga is an immortal art used in the form of a blood point striking technique, originally said to be a part of a yoga meditation method from the world of the Obsidian Devil Heavenly King. Kududuk. Kim Young-hoon's body briefly twists, then he looks down at his own hand. This is excellent. It aligns with the enlightenment I gained from the previous golden body. Heavenly King, of the enlightenment of the realm of the Heavenly Venerable of the underworld. It seems Mahayuga itself is an immortal art created by combining the yogic meditation method from the Obsidian Devil Heavenly King's homeland, the immortal arts of this world, and a portion of enlightenment from the Heavenly Venerable of the underworld. So the past 100 or so days of effort weren't for nothing. I also apply the immortal art of Mahayuga Immortal to Oh Yun-sok, Jaeon Myung-hoon, and Kim Yeon, and decide to restrain from using it myself until I face Hyeon-mu. Roughly 1 Shichen remains until the descent of Hyeon-mu's Gandhara. We are currently inside the inner sea, the space between the heavenly domains of Mount Sumeru. We have entered a space known as the Abyss Shenyuan. The outer sea is chaos, the inner sea is the abyss, The outer sea of Mount Sumeru mixes the 3 planes together and allows for no laws to function. The inner sea of Mount Sumeru, though a mix of the 3 planes and the true immortal realm, is affected by the attraction force of each heavenly domain with laws faintly lingering. However, despite the laws remaining, the laws of the inner sea are for the most part, completely in contrast to the outer sea, immutable. Because of this, many entities of the immortal family refer to this place as the abyss. Kugugugugu. Yet, we now witness those very laws of the abyss, known for being unchanging, wildly twisting and distorting. It is because, deep within the abyss, Hyeon-mu is descending. And for how long do we watch the depths of the abyss? Shriek. From far in the distance, Hong Fan flies toward us. Hong Fan. Master. Seeing Hong Fan soaked in blood, I bite my lip. Damn it, are you alright? I'm fine. More importantly, first, Wu Wang. Even as he coughs up blood, Hong Fan injects us with wisdom. We come to know how far Hyeon-mu has descended, and roughly what form her true body takes. Hong Fan, with a mere entering Nirvana stage body, had declared he would go scout Hyeon-mu, carrying our protection and fate on his back. But as expected, it seems this task was too much for Hong Fan. He is on the brink of death. Hong Fan. I look at him with sorrowful eyes and speak. Rest in the elephant nose heavenly domain. Hyeon Rang will take care of you. Master. But even as he bleeds, Hong Fan smiles. I refuse. What? Until the end, I will remain within your body, Master. So please, allow me to stay with you. Quote. I gaze bitterly at Hong Fan and hesitate for a while. But finally, I nod. The restored canvas of myriad forms and connections will protect you. So stay hidden deep inside my body, within the range its power can reach. Yes, Master. Hong Fan smiles faintly, happy to remain by my side, and seeing that smile, I make a firm vow. I will not lose, no matter what. Hong Fan. Life is. Yes, eat boiled potatoes. Don't you like boiled potatoes? I've prepared plenty inside my body. Quote. TL notes. Pun again. Life is as homonymous with boiled. For my loyal retainer who risked danger to directly face Hyeon-mu's descent, I manifest boiled potatoes within my body. I remember everything, like how he smiled and said he liked them last time. Though I cannot give him much, I can at least give him boiled potatoes. While eating boiled potatoes, wait for me. I swear, I will defeat Hyeon-mu in return. Quote. Kayak, Kuhayak. Hong Fan, who had been listening quietly to my words, suddenly begins to cough up congested blood. Kuhayak, Kuhuk, Ku, Hong Fan, Ku, even with all of our protections carried on his back, perhaps. Witnessing Hyeon Mu's descent with a mere entering nirvana stage body was too much after all. Hong Fan continues to cough up blood from deep within his chest without stop. Master, Hong Fan, he coughs up blood, whispering to me with a face full of pain and suffocation. Quote. I have seen Hyeon Mu and returned, and, Master, upon seeing the governing immortals, there was something that came to mind. I block his whisper from reaching anyone else. It seems he wants to keep this a secret between us. Master, do not trust the naming supreme deity. They are hiding something. Quote. All right, I'll ask for details after we've won. He's too injured to say more anyway. I hug the admirable Hong Fan once, then place him inside my body. Inside, Hong Fan begins to stuff the prepared boiled potatoes into his mouth. Looks like he really likes them. Now then, everyone's expression grows solemn. From afar, a massive presence is felt, only to vanish in an instant. The owner of that presence is perfectly controlling their aura. From now on, shall we begin the heavenly venerable who? I open my mouth with confidence, drawing forth my power, ready to declare the start of the heavenly venerable battle. Quote. Quote. Then, in an instant, I realize the world looks flipped. Wah, I understand immediately. Hyeon Mu has appeared among us and, without us realizing it, has sliced my throat. In the fleeting instant that the heavenly venerable battle begins, I am killed by Hyeon Mu. Chapter 638, Northern Heavenly Venerable. The moment Hyeon Mu descends upon Mount Sumeru, Kim Young-hoon and the other Enders all open their eyes wide. A fleeting instant. No, it should be said to be the fleeting instant within a fleeting instant. Within that minuscule fraction of time, Seo Eun-yun is disassembled in a flash. It begins with the neck. Seo Eun-yun is torn apart limb by limb, starting from the neck, and dies. That is the end, even that is only faintly perceived by Kim Young-hoon alone. By the time everyone becomes aware of Hyeon Mu, she is already standing atop Seo Eun-yun's fractured body. The one who reacts the most is Kang Min-hee. Seo Eun-yun, karmic fire blazes from her eyes and engulfs the area in an instant. Tadadak. Oh Yun-sok steps forward and protects the others using the power of primordial chaos, and Hyeon Mu takes Kang Min-hee's karmic fire directly to her body. However, even as she burns fiercely in the karmic fire, Hyeon Mu shows no reaction. What is this now? Trying to warm an elderly with some tea, perhaps? Her hollow eyes scan the surroundings. Kang Min-hee sheds blue tears and glares at Hyeon Mu. How dare you? To Seo Eun-yun, Kugugugu. With that, her entire body swells and begins to grow larger and larger. Her form gradually transforms into a massive being cloaked in darkness. Starting with Kang Min-hee, the other Enders also begin revealing their true forms. Jaeon Myung-hoon transforms into a lightning god with 3 heads and 8 arms. Oh Yun-sok becomes a warrior of chaos made entirely of vapor. Kim Yeon becomes a giant god formed of pale pink light. However, even seeing all this, Hyeon Mu shows not the slightest concern. Instead, she only brushes her neck and clicks her tongue. Mere slaves, wearing such cumbersome shackles on their necks, dare to confront this venerable. Listen well. She looks at Kim Young-hoon, then at the naming supreme deity beginning to descend within Oh Yun-sok, and gives a meaningful smile. Among those present, the only ones who can stand against this venerable, are at least those not wearing shackles. If you intend to confront a heavenly venerable, you should have at least tossed aside such nuisances beforehand. Quoreric. Something slips down from the end of Hyeon Mu's sleeve. It is a snake. Black snakes begin flowing out of Hyeon Mu's entire body. Hiss hiss. The snakes hiss as they begin to fill the surrounding area. Kurururung. Though they seem to be move as if alive, each snake radiates its own distinct power and begins to spread like storm clouds, seizing a part of the abyss and brewing a storm. From within that storm, hollow eyes flash. Those eyes fixate on Kim Young-hoon. A fleeting instant, Kim Young-hoon barely deflects the strike that Hyeon Mu aims at him. Hyeon Mu, targeting Kim Young-hoon's heart with her claw technique, exchanges heart language with him for a fleeting instant. Now then, before we begin in earnest, shall we enjoy a bit of amusement? Hyeon Mu regains her stance with a relaxed expression as she faces Kim Young-hoon, and Kim Young-hoon hurriedly begins to move his body. Thus, the great battle between the Enders and the Heavenly Venerable begins in an instant. Where is this I blankly try to hold on to my senses. It's strange. I feel drowsy, but I also feel that if I lose consciousness like this, I might never open my eyes again. Why am I like this again? After thinking for a while, I realize what happened to me. Ah, right, I was killed by Hyeon Mu. And that too with just a single strike. I couldn't even perceive it. Because her strike wasn't merely an attack, the moment Hyeon Mu unleashed her move, I was hurled straight into the domain of purity and began to be annihilated. In front of Hyeon Mu, prophecy and revision hold no meaning. An authority that completely ignores such miscellaneous methods of revival, throwing one's very existence directly into the domain of purity to be erased. That is Hyeon Mu's power. So this is how I die. That's not so bad. It's regretful that I didn't live with even more effort. But still, isn't this enough? Isn't this a life lived fully enough? I just want to end it now. But just as I think that, Wu Wang, my consciousness begins to rise again. I grit my teeth. Kijijijik. The authority of regression forcibly drags me out of the domain of purity and starts regressing me. However, is it because I remain conscious within the domain of purity? I realize that this is being treated as a type of heavenly escape, and my body is beginning to re-emerge into reality. Please, please, I cry out toward the authority of regression that pulls me from death. Just leave me alone already. That's enough. I just want it to end. Pawak. With that, I gradually return to reality and resurrect. If left like this, I will end up fully escaping from the domain of purity again and fight against Hyeon Mu. Damn it. Ironically, Hyeon Mu's power, which melts the opponent by casting them into the domain of purity, seems to not work this time. It must be because the power of my regression lies in a domain deeper than Hyeon Mu's single strike. So I can't die, huh? Of course, dying isn't really my goal. Rather, my purpose is to live the best life I can, and be buried in the land I've lived in. So maybe this is fortunate in a way. However, the vague fear of not knowing where this story will end plants a deep despair in me. That's when it happens. Single quote. Question mark. Single quote. I suddenly feel something strange. A bizarre sense of dissonance. Within the domain of purity, I feel as though I can see some strange link connected to regression. Why does it feel like the authority of regression is rooted in a place deeper within the domain of purity? Hyeon Mu is clearly a being capable of casting others into the domain of purity or freely wielding its power. However, for some reason, I feel as though this authority called regression stems from a place even deeper than the domain of purity that Hyeon Mu can access. At the same time, I recall something from before. Undeniably, Hyeon Mu once shook the authority of my regression itself. Yes, and that means, if I keep fighting Hyeon Mu, I might find a clue to sever the regression. Powahahek. I return to reality and look toward Hyeon Mu, who now stirs a black storm and faces all my comrades at once. The other Enders are unleashing barrages of attacks through their respective authorities at Hyeon Mu. But it seems none of them have yet revealed their true authority. It feels more like a prelude to gauge one another's strength. Still, even during this prelude, my comrades are completely overwhelmed fending off the black storm unleashed by Hyeon Mu, and the only one she charges at with seriousness is Kim Young-hoon. Even so, Kim Young-hoon sticks solely to defense, and for some reason, I get the feeling that he's barely holding it together. It is then, single quote. Before I know it, I become aware of Hyeon Mu's weapon trying to cleave through my neck. Hyeon Mu, who just moments ago had Kim Young-hoon pinned, suddenly appears before my eyes again as if she's deleted time again. There's no time to think further. Before Hyeon Mu's sword slices through my neck, I use all my strength to cut my own neck first with the impermanence sword. Kukwik. In the next moment, I sever my neck by my own will and use heavenly escape. Perhaps because it's not Hyeon Mu who cast me into the domain of purity, but me doing it on my own will. I manage to reappear beside Kim Young-hoon using heavenly escape and regain my senses. But then, immediately after, blink, single quote. Exclamation mark. Single quote. I suddenly sense Hyeon Mu stabbing into my heart again. The tip of her sword is scraping against my heart. The terrifying speed sends shivers all over my body. I can't even perceive it. Isn't this basically deleting time? I can't keep going like this. Kukwik. Once again, I kill myself and flee using heavenly escape. But right after, I feel Hyeon Mu's sword entering through my mouth, aiming to sever my spinal cord. Crazy. Pawak. I use heavenly escape again. And when I open my eyes, Hyeon Mu is already upon me once more, killing me. It's relentless. So relentless, it feels like Hyeon Mu is obsessively focused on killing me. In the end, I have to repeatedly use Heavenly Escape and experience death again and again due to Hyeon Mu. And then, during one of those times. This is, every time I enter and exit the domain of purity, I start to sense something. Something is clinging. A true immortal has no physical form, but if I were to imagine having one. It feels like something is caught on my neck every time I go into and return from the domain of purity. And that sensation is a shackle. It resembles the iron collars put on slaves or prisoners. What is this? Something Hyeon Mu put on me. No, it's different from Hyeon Mu's. But, without this shackle-like thing, I think I could respond to Hyeon Mu's movements much better. The more I die to Hyeon Mu, the more ways to counter her come to mind. And for that, I feel a growing urge to cut off this cumbersome, shackle-like thing. And then, in the very next moment, schwak, Hyeon Mu's sword aims for my neck, and I parry it with the impermanent sword. Tune, I have deflected Hyeon Mu's strike for the first time. I can perceive the shackle. I control this shackle as best as possible to not be hindered by it, and block Hyeon Mu's movements. Then, cut. For a moment, the will of the impermanent sword becomes one with my own. My impermanent sword seems to rise greatly, then severs the shackle caught around my neck in an instant. Quagwagwagwong. The moment the shackle is severed, the entire abyss rumbles as if shaken, and the laws of the abyss tremble wildly. It's as if the abyss is transforming into chaos, just like the outer sea. Hyeon Mu watches this, and for some reason, gives a mischievous and charming smile. Quote. Her smile is so alluring that for a moment, I nearly lose my senses. But it's not the kind of ordinary affection or gentleness. It feels more like an allure dragging me into a mire. However, not a chance. I do not let myself be bewitched by that smile. Instead, I thrust the impermanent sword toward this shackle that tightens around my neck as if alive. Quagwagwong. Once more, an explosive sound bursts forth from around my neck. At the same time, I succeed in completely severing the shackle that is trying to reattach to my neck. Pishui, looks like you've shaken off the nuisance. You are now just barely qualified to face me. I look at what has fallen from my neck. It resembles the collar of a slave, yet as time passes, it unravels into the form of wisdom, and begins to blend into the chaos. And seeing that, I widen my eyes. That wisdom, the identity of the shackle that had been binding me all this time, is none other than my immortal title. The immortal title, crystal glass being. That is the very shackle that had bound me until now. Schwiering. In that moment, Hyeon Mu's weapon grazes right in front of my eyes, and I narrowly evade Hyeon Mu's strike. But unlike the near misses until now, this time I clearly perceive and dodge it, even if only by a sliver. Peeshed. Of course, even though I dodge, I fail to deflect all the sharp energy, and the tip of my nose gets cut. Now that's more like it. How does it feel? Refreshing, isn't it? Quote. I glare at Hyeon Mu. That's right. Until now, Hyeon Mu hasn't even taken us seriously. She's merely been playing with us to give me enlightenment. You haven't been fighting us properly. Why on earth would I need to go all out against those wearing something like a shackle? That'd just kill the fun. Hyeon Mu lets her weapon hang loosely. Pot. Before I realize it, Kim Young-hoon appears beside me. He doesn't say a word, but I immediately understand his meaning. Chiok, he and I face Hyeon Mu, each taking a stance to launch an offensive. The reason Kim Young-hoon has been focused solely on defense until now was to prepare for our coordinated attack. However, Hyeon Mu doesn't take a battle stance against us. She just smiles leisurely. Well, you're now worth looking at, but, not yet. What? Not yet. The guests haven't all arrived at the banquet. If we are all going to dance together in the emptiness, the more guests, the better. Kugugugu. It is then, I sense presences descending from other heavenly domains, from other dimensions. This is, in this cramped Mount Sumeru, you are not the only ones who have reached Udambara. For them, being able to dance with this venerable is a tremendous honor, so there is no reason they would not come. So until all the guests have arrived, this is merely a bit of fun. Twitch. I feel Hyeon Mu's body slowly beginning to distort. Shiver. At the same time, a chill runs down my spine. I sense cold sweat forming on Kim Young-hoon's body. Even Kim Young-hoon, who has reached the heavenly venerable rank, is this tense. Coo goo 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 goo. Then, from far off, colossal beings begin to descend. I realize all of them are faces I know. Underworld 10 Kings. 3rd seat. Blade Mountain True Lord Dao Shan Zhen Jun Qin Guang. Underworld 10 Kings. 6th seat. Sword Tree True Lord Jian Shu Zhen Jun Wu Guan. Underworld 10 Kings. 8th seat. Corpse Saw True Lord Ju Hai Zhen Jun Tai Shan. Underworld 10 Kings. 10th seat. Wind Path True Lord Feng Tu Zhen Jun Do Shi. Blade Mountain, Sword Tree, Corpse Saw, Wind Path. 4 great kings of the Underworld 10 Kings have descended. Yet they don't seem to be here to help Kong Minhee. They do not glance in her direction, much less offer assistance. And strangely, though they would normally be accompanied by ghost kings, yakshas, rikshasa, and asuras, they appear entirely alone. At that moment, the Blade Mountain True Lord Qin Guang holds something in their hand. It is a blade. Upon the surface of that blade rise countless blade mountains, making it look more like a spiked club than a saber. The Sword Tree True Lord Wu Guan begins to unsheath their sword from their entire body. They transform into something akin to a ghost made entirely of swords, much like myself. The Corpse Saw True Lord Tai Shan throws off their judge's robe. Revealed beneath are countless circular saws made of darkness. The saws spin endlessly like a wheel, and their number is so vast they are as uncountable as stars. The Wind Path True Lord Du Shi begins to summon blade winds around them. Eventually, they become an interstellar wind, no, the heavenly wind between heavenly domains itself, becoming a massive whirlwind that sets its gaze on Hyeon Mu. I see. I break into a cold sweat. Before, they hadn't properly revealed themselves, and because I saw them only in the underworld, I hadn't noticed. But now I understand. They have all reached severing heaven. In underworld terms, they are beings who have reached the realm of Dragon Flower. And it doesn't even seem like that's the end. Why hasn't Yan Luo come this time? At those words, Great King Qin Guang strokes their blade of Blade Mountains and responds. The chief judge must assist the Imperial Venerable and thus cannot act lightly. Unfortunate. You are all like mirror copies of each other, but at least it would have been amusing. Quote. If that's true, then, that means the number of those who have reached the realm of Dragon Flower from the underworld, including the Yama True Lord Yan Luo, totals 5. I look toward the underworld side. Each and every one of the true lords from the underworld intensely radiates the power of Narayana nature. Strangely, they all seem to have gained the divinity of preservation, or acquired triple divinity specialized for it. Just then, kururururung. Suddenly, space-time twists, and countless clusters of stars gather in the void. Immediately after, something breaks through space-time from within that place. It is a being composed of countless arms. Northern Dipper 7 Heavenly Lords. 6th seat. Martial Melody Heavenly Lord. The Martial Melody Heavenly Lord, who had once fought me, pierces through space-time and appears. At the same time, I realize that back then, the Martial Melody Heavenly Lord was holding back a great deal against me. Though only one trace of Mahavira nature is sensed from them, they are unmistakably a severing heaven powerhouse. Then, from a distant place, a deep fragrance drifts in. This scent, Jayok. Space-time splits again, and someone else appears. It is a familiar face. Snorting through flared nostrils, they emerge, a heavenly Pegasus, clad in a black-red martial robe over a pure white body. With white wings on their back, they fall from a flower field brimming with the vitality of countless lives and laughs. The immortal beast white-winged heavenly Pegasus. The flower overseer of the eastern heaven flower field has descended here in their true form. From them flows the same creation-specialized energy as from Kim Young-hoon. It has been a while, Hyeon Mu. Are you hosting a banquet once again? How long has it been? Hyeon Mu, who looks around at them, smiles with hollow eyes. Though it's unfortunate Yan Luo didn't come, it can't be helped. Enders, heavenly kings, and those who have reached the ultimate of the martial path. Ripple, shiver, Hyeon Mu's body begins to distort more violently. At the same time, the black storm Hyeon Mu summoned to face the Enders begins to merge with her. At that moment, I realize the abyss is being stained. The inner sea that flowed between the heavenly domains begins to solidify as a singular space. The expressions of white-winged heavenly Pegasus, the martial melody heavenly lord, the 4 kings of the underworld, Kim Young-hoon, and myself, all stiffen. This is because the interdimensional void, which had until now been superimposed within the heavenly domains, now pushes outward and begins spreading across this inner sea. Darkness and emptiness surge outward from Hyeon Mu, transforming the entire abyss into a world of nothingness. And at the very center, the constantly distorting form of Hyeon Mu finally begins to take on a proper shape. It is a constantly spinning black 3 great ultimates. More precisely, just like I saw before, it is a spinning 3 great ultimates made up of countless black snakes. From that rotating 3 great ultimates, I feel a funeral dirge echoing outward. I can't see the future. Suddenly taken aback by the inability to read the celestial energy, I gasp for breath. No future is permitted to show itself to us. It isn't simply that the celestial energy has been severed. Emptiness. All scenes of the future are being devoured by the heavenly venerable of void. Everything is emptiness, and we realize that in our future, only nothingness awaits. I swallow hard as I watch the mass of snakes writhing ominously at the center of the emptiness. And then, Hyeon Mu's voice resounds. Everything borrowed must always be returned with interest. All of you present here, do you not have something to repay to me? Quote. Something to repay. At those words, Oh Yun-sok speaks as if it's absurd. What laughable words you speak. Hyeon Mu, I have heard from my master. You feed off our authority from the middle of Mount Sumeru to maintain your own authority as a heavenly venerable, do you not? And now you speak of a repayment. How laughable. Is it not you who should repay us for the authority you have taken? Ahahaha. Disciple of the prison warden. You come here running your mouth after listening to Hyeon Rang's presumptuous nonsense. Before this heavenly venerable of void, had you chosen to descend into the underworld and accepted taxidermization, you would have learned a more proper truth, but all you've gained is delusion. You dare, just as Oh Yun-sok is about to release vapor from his entire body. Now then, since all who should gather have gathered, shall we begin? Hyeon Mu's 3 great ultimates begins to spin even faster. At the same time, I suddenly feel as if I can't breathe. The oxygen I had been breathing so naturally until now suddenly feels extinguished. Kim Young-hoon's eyes turn bloodshot. I realize what has just happened. One of the power sources that had been supplying us with strength, the plane of soul, has closed. Sun and Moon heavenly domain, the bright, cold realm, all the members of the Heart tribe there begin to go berserk. Now, even the bright cold martial alliance struggles to suppress the Heart tribe's rampage. The reason is simple. The plane of soul has completely closed. Nether Ghost Realm. A great chaos erupts there. Because the plane of soul has closed, countless beings using the ghost path method suffer a temporary collapse in their cultivation level. Fortunately, because the outskirts of the underworld exist, the ghosts are not annihilated all at once, but the ghostly creatures of the Nether Ghost Realm cannot withstand the shock of the plane of soul vanishing, and in an instant, they are dragged into the underworld. Across the entire expanse of Mount Sumeru, a strange phenomenon occurs. One of the 3 planes, the plane of soul, has closed. It is as if the plane of soul itself has escaped beyond the heavenly domain. Countless mortal beings are thrown into confusion by this phenomenon, and those of the immortal family who know the truth can only tremble, driven mad by fear. Hyeon Mu's voice echoes once more. Before we begin the dance, it seems the current enders of this generation are all under a misunderstanding, so let me advise you. Ku-gu-gu-gu-gu-gu. From the center of the endlessly revolving black 3 great ultimates, an eerie phrase emitting ominous momentum echoes out. All mortal beings of this world have mortgaged everything to governing immortals. The light you bask in, the land you tread, the spiritual energy you breathe, the names by which you define one another. The source of all those things, and those who provide them in forms suited for living beings, are the supreme deities and heavenly venerables. And among them, those who have stepped upon the path of immortal cultivation are all the more bound. The rotation of the 3 great ultimates accelerates, appearing now like a circle made of black snakes. We are the ones who assist in the very realms of immortal cultivation, making your rise easier. Especially for those who follow the direct immortal Tao of the supreme deities, this is even more true. For they receive additional powers through the direct assistance of the supreme deities through the immortal crown. Immortal crown, its system of power is clearly. The moment I think that. Hyeon Mu laughs. It is not something like a system of power. She read me. I understand. At this very moment, Hyeon Mu is a being who, like the heavenly venerable of the underworld, can read the thoughts of mere beings like us. The immortal crown is proof of soul summoning, and simultaneously the power of divine descent. The more we use the immortal crown, the more our fate, soul, and history become dominated by the owner of the immortal Tao, and eventually, we are either replaced by the incarnation of the original owner or transformed into their immortal treasure. To wear an immortal crown is, ultimately, to divine descent the will of the supreme deity or heavenly venerable into oneself. Quote. Exclamation mark question mark quote. The moment I hear those words, a shudder like lightning runs through my entire body. That means, since one is divine descending the original owner of the immortal Tao into oneself, naturally, one may gain resistance to their power. But those who wear the immortal crown lose the will to resist its original owner. One's fate becomes increasingly dominated, and eventually they become a slave. The immortal crown, in the end, is merely a different form of shackle. Hyeon Mu begins to chuckle. Just the act of Hyeon Mu laughing makes me feel like I'm going to cough up blood. What is this? Even if you remove the immortal crown, should you confront its original owner, all the power you have borrowed from that owner must eventually be repaid, with interest. And thus, those who have received immortal crowns can never defeat the true owner of the immortal Tao. At that moment, Hyeon Mu chuckles toward the other heavenly lords and true lords as if finding it laughable. And, there are some cunning supreme deities who, even without one's desire, forcibly grant immortal crowns through strange methods to lend out their power, limit that power, and toy with fate. Isn't that right, Hyeon Rang? At Hyeon Mu's words, we all turn to look at Hyeon Rang, who is divine descending into Oh Yun Sok's body. He gives no reply. All the immortal titles you have received are merely shackles Hyeon Rang has placed upon us. They are simply a different form of the immortal crown. Any being who receives a name from Hyeon Rang becomes incapable of defying him. You don't actually believe his presence here today is mere coincidence, do you? At those words, I glare at Hyeon Rang. That's right. The immortal titles Hyeon Rang granted us are, like those I had granted to my comrades, a special kind of immortal crown that he forced upon all true immortals through some peculiar spell. Is that true? Jaeon Myung-hoon glares at Hyeon Rang. Then, Hyeon Rang replies in a low voice. Yes, but it seems there is a misunderstanding. The immortal crown I granted you does indeed lend power, but the one to whom you must repay that power is not this immortal. Hyeon Rang continues in a voice that sounds oddly strained. The one you must repay the power of the immortal title to, is not this immortal, but emptiness, Shu Kong, void. It is to that existence the repayment must be made. And, the act of naming you, is not something this immortal desires. From the eyes of Hyeon Rang, who has divine descent into Oh Yun Sok's body, the light of sun and moon bursts forth. Even this immortal has placed a shackle around his own neck. I too now wish to break free from this repetition. That is why, this time, Hyeon Mu, I shall bring you down with the enders of this generation and challenge the audience chamber. I will destroy the emptiness that imposes fate upon this immortal, and seize true freedom. Oh Yun Sok's body grows massive, and Hyeon Rang's power begins to reveal itself to the entire world. Do not let our unity be sabotaged. And come to your senses. This immortal shall protect you all. Kururururung. Grown large enough to cover an entire heavenly domain, Hyeon Rang gathers the power of primordial chaos, borrowed from Oh Yun Sok's energy, into his hands and brings it down upon Hyeon Mu. Kurururung. But the rotating three great ultimates quickly become a vortex. The vortex begins to expand endlessly, and Hyeon Rang's giant form is soon pushed back by the swirling force. Then, Hyeon Mu speaks again. Unlike those other gloomy heavenly venerables, or radiants, or Hyeon Rang. I am merciful. Originally, the heavenly venerables are beings who, by their mere existence, lend principle to all of Mount Sumeru and crown it with immortal crowns. Hyeon Mu's next words are shocking. That is why, originally, it is impossible for any living being to kill us. Because the very principles we have imposed are embedded in your fate and soul. Half transformed into the immortal treasures of his heavenly venerables, you reject the very act of killing us. But this venerable shall show mercy. I shall give you time to repay the power you have borrowed from me up until now. If your existence remains after that, then you shall be granted the qualification to challenge this venerable. Shiver, shiver. Blood drips down from Kim Young-hoon's mouth. He has clenched his teeth so hard that his gums have ruptured. At the same time, I feel a terrifying suction force coming from Hyeon Mu. Not only me, but Kim Young-hoon, the true lords of the underworld gathered here, White-winged Heavenly Pegasus, the martial melody Heavenly Lord, all seem unable to resist this suction. The underside of emptiness is soul. Shiver, shiver, shiver. Insane. My face contorts completely at the despairing truth I never realized before. Kim Young-hoon's hands also tremble as he exhales. The plane of soul does not truly exist. All that truly exists in this world are the planes of chi and fate. Back when I received the title of Sword Devil from Sacred Master Baek-woon and returned to Cedarwood Grove, I had entered the plane of soul and seen where the other dimensions intersected. But among them, the interdimensional void could not be seen anywhere. Only now do I understand the despairing reason behind it. The principle you have mistaken until now as the plane of soul is the underside of the interdimensional void. And, all beings who have cultivated through the plane of soul until now have, in truth, been borrowing my immortal crown all along. Someone once said something like this. Maybe it's because this moment is so filled with despair, I can't remember who it was exactly, but I definitely heard these words before. That the Heart Tribe are like beings who never originally existed, that barged into the world. It turns out that was the truth. The cultivation of the Heart Tribe was never something that truly existed. Because the system of cultivation that the entity known as the Northern Heavenly Venerable forcefully wedged into this world is the manifestation of the Heart Tribe. Why is it that, through void perception, which connects to the interdimensional void, the talent of the Heart Tribe increases? Because the plane of soul and the interdimensional void are two faces of the same thing. Kim Young-hoon's talent is one intimately tied to the very plane of soul. And now, Kim Young-hoon and I, who have continued our cultivation by borrowing immense power from the plane of soul, must pay a horrifying price to Hyeon-mu. As I feel my energy being sucked out by the overwhelming suction force radiating from Hyeon-mu, her words ring in my ears. Repay it, and then dance with me. Please endure. Endure, and while dancing with me, come kill me. Thus, realizing Hyeon-mu's truth, I grit my teeth, repaying every moment I've passed through the plane of soul to Hyeon-mu. Chapter 639, Heavenly Venerable's Power 1. Do. I grit my teeth. An overwhelming force constricts me, draining strength from my body. Every moment I have resolved problems through the plane of soul. Every moment I have gazed upon intent. All the moments I have pursued martial arts through intent. From those very moments, strength flows out of me. Keying, behind my back, the pure white three great ultimates spins fiercely, pouring power into Hyeon-mu. However, no matter how much energy is given to Hyeon-mu, this endless suction force remains impossible to resist. Kim Young-hoon is the same. No, his situation looks even more dire than mine. He seems to barely be enduring through the cultivation of a heavenly king, but even that feels like a candle flickering in the wind, about to go out. At least for the other enders, whose main powers don't lie in martial arts, things are a little better. But Kim Yeon and Kong Min-hee, whose primary authorities are connected to the spirit, are being drained significantly, and the other enders are also having a portion of the power they've accumulated as enders sucked away. As for the other true lords and heavenly lords, perhaps because they've been regularly drained by Hyeon-mu whenever something like this happens. They are being drained at a far lesser degree than we are. Thanks to Hyeon-rang, at least we're not getting immediately sucked into void and devoured. The only reason we're still holding on is because the naming supreme deity Hyeon-rang divine descent into Oh Yun-sok's body and is suppressing Hyeon-mu's suction force. Without that, we wouldn't just be drained of strength, we'd be getting pulled in and annihilated entirely. Is this why the heavenly venerable of the underworld warned to beware of the north? The authorities of the enders. All the powers we awaken seem closely tied to death, or to the heart itself. And Hyeon-mu is the founder of the plane of soul, which governs those powers of the heart. That is why, to us, Hyeon-mu is the worst possible matchup. Goo. As I have such thoughts, I suddenly see the massive body of Hyeon-mu, which Hyeon-rang had been suppressing, begin to swell. Crazy. The vortex of black snakes expands, pushing back Hyeon-rang, and begins spinning faster and faster to devour us. Hyeon-mu's suction force shows no sign of weakening, it only grows stronger. Despair settles into my eyes. How are we supposed to defeat this? No, can we even escape? Perhaps, when we first heard that Hyeon-mu was descending, we shouldn't have thought of confronting her, but instead should have sought a way to escape. There's no answer in sight. Just as everything before my eyes begins to darken. Tuck, quote. It feels as if someone pushes my back. I turn around, wondering who it might be. But there is no one behind me. All that's behind me is the pure white three great ultimates, and the white deer without antlers I created to draw out my full power. In other words, only the canvas of myriad forms and connections I temporarily restored for this time. Just now, who? But just as I begin wondering who pushed me, I realize who it was. Single quote. You. Someone is extending their fist toward me. It is my disciples, from when I was reaching 5 energies converging to the origin. It is Kim Young-hoon, who has taught me countless martial arts until now. It is my teachers, including Cheongman Ryong and Buk Hyung-hwa, who've taught me countless matters of the heart. Within the canvas of myriad forms and connections, all those countless people look at me and extend their fists. How can this be? The canvas of myriad forms and connections is supposed to only reflect my heart. Unless I desire it, they should only repeat their predetermined actions. Ah, only now do I realize. They haven't died. From them, I feel an undeniable sense of life. Because they are a part of me. And the reason they pushed my back is simply because I subconsciously wished for it. I already knew the answer. I just hadn't recalled it immediately. The answer was already there. Kudik. My foot steps into space as I begin to move toward Hyeon Mu, who spews out suction force. Kuging. My physical body grows larger as my true form begins to reveal itself. A white round collar robe made from glass sword mountains begins to shine clearly within the domain of emptiness. O owner of void, you have said that we borrowed your strength. That you heavenly venerables cover this world with immortal crowns and lend us principles. Kugugugugu. The suction force from the spinning 3 great ultimates only intensifies, but Hyeon Mu does not directly respond. But even that is enough for me to feel as if I've received an answer. Hyeon Mu looks upon me with interest. Then, you heavenly venerables, are you not those who have taken the entire world as your disciple, and become the teachers of Mount Sumeru itself? I press my palms together and bow before the enormous suction force before me. O great teacher of the world! You have bestowed upon us teachings and principles. However, this disciple dares to ask you something. The hissing snakes all turn their eyes to me. My teacher, may this disciple, as your student, now offer teachings to the teacher in return. When Hyeon Mu first appeared to us, she called herself the creditor and us the debtors, taking strength from us. But now, I begin to reinterpret that relationship in my own way. Not as creditor and debtor, but as teacher and disciple. Clang. Outside the pure white 3 great ultimates, the wheel overlays itself. The wheel that absorbs the pure white light begins to spin, radiating starlight. At the same time, the power of rotation centered around me spreads out, repelling the suction force from Hyeon Mu that is bearing down on the surrounding enders. Kuguguging. Simultaneously, a message flies forth from Hyeon Mu as if amused. Excellent. I have seen many golden bodies and heavenly kings, but you are the first to fight through interpretation in this way. Hyeon Mu praises me. Opening square bracket ... But that is merely a deferment of your debt. In the end, unless you show enlightenment greater than the moments you borrowed power from the plane of soul, the debt shall be enforced once again. That's right. In the end, what I have done is not erase the debt. I have simply replaced the price of that debt, not by giving strength, but by showing the enlightenment we have gained. If the enlightenment we show does not satisfy Hyeon Mu, then we must once more repay that debt at the end. Kijijik. Compressing my body, I speak. I will show you now. At the same time, a powerful repulsion from Hyeon Mu flings away the naming supreme deity and Oyun Sok. Very well, come at me, shushashuk. The true lords and heavenly lords also step into the rotational force centered around me, evading Hyeon Mu's suction. Then, all of us charge at Hyeon Mu at once. The true heavenly venerable battle begins. Kururum. An instant, Hyeon Mu's body swells massively. Opening square bracket ... exclamation mark closing square bracket. Asamkyeya, Ganges sand, no. Black snakes numbering in quantities closer to the incomprehensible rampage and lash out like whips. A fleeting instant, slashes formed from the bodies of the black snakes begin to overturn the entirety of the inner sea. The heavenly domains existing in the faraway space-time. Corners of the bearing tree heavenly domain, twin holding heavenly domain, and heavenly king heavenly domain are visibly shaved away by Hyeon Mu's single strike. Restrain Hyeon Mu's main body. With my shout, Jaeon Myung-hoon unfolds Indra's net. A net of lightning originating from him spreads and covers Hyeon Mu's body. Kim Yeon, now moving the body of the vast cold heavenly lord, crashes down from afar and slams into Hyeon Mu's massive form. Oyun Sok and the naming supreme deity also transform into a giant god and push Hyeon Mu upward from below. Kuririk. Kong Minhee forms a hand seal from a distance. At that moment, countless laws begin layering over Hyeon Mu. Numerous laws carve themselves across Hyeon Mu's entire body, beginning to restrain her true form. Kururum. The underworld 10 kings begin to move. The blade mountain true lord and the corpse saw true lord slice through the snakes, bodies with their blade and saw, while the sword tree true lord and the wind path true lord stretch out twin palms from both sides, cutting down High-Own Emu's slashes as they press forward. The martial melody heavenly lord moves countless arms, exchanging continuous palm strikes with High-Own Emu's snakes. And at the center of the whirling vortex High-Own Mu is dancing. There, Kim Young-hoon, white-winged heavenly Pegasus, and I land. So you're from the Brahma nature side after all. Having compressed to a size close to that of an ordinary human like us, white-winged heavenly Pegasus asks Kim Young-hoon. Kim Young-hoon gives a brief nod. Seeing that, white-winged heavenly Pegasus speaks. There's only one way to kill High-Own Mu. High-Own Emu's interdimensional void is ultimately the result of her own interpretation of the domain of purity. Therefore, to kill High-Own Mu, or at least inflict a fatal wound, our interpretation of the domain of purity must surpass High-Own Emu's principle. You're saying it's an interpretation battle? That we must deny High-Own Emu's martial arts system through interpretation? At my question, Kim Young-hoon shakes his head. No, denying the martial arts system High-Own Mu has built through interpretation, that's just the minimum condition. To kill High-Own Mu, we must deny the principle she has accumulated until now across the time of the Ganges sands. You're saying we have to deny her principle? Yeah, to put it simply, he speaks with solemn eyes. We must cut through the emptiness. At those words, my eyes widen. What are you? There's a reason why High-Own Emu's interdimensional void is called the interdimensional void. It's because it is, quite literally, empty. There is nothing. You can cut what has form. You can cut souls. You can cut space. Even fate, and even history. My impermanence sword has cut through all of them. However, you cannot cut what does not exist. High-Own Emu's interdimensional void is literally emptiness. The world closest to the domain of purity. There is nothing there, thus, there is nothing to cut. In truth, the current interdimensional void is the empty domain of purity, overlaid with the principle of, nothing exists. Can you imagine it? It's like painting white paint over a white wall. Even if one tries to slash through the will that fills the interdimensional void, the domain of purity itself is a world no different from the interdimensional void, so cutting it would be meaningless. The domain of purity itself supports principle of the interdimensional void, so cutting it would be pointless. However, Kim Young-hoon laughs. Is it meaningless to draw a picture on a black canvas? Pardon, if all that lies before your eyes is darkness, then what must you do to dispel that darkness? Sirring, Kim Young-hoon lifts his saber with a bitter smile. Is not the way to dispel darkness, shining light. If High-Own Emu's interpretation of purity is nothingness, then mine is different. Kim Young-hoon's meaning is conveyed through the heart. Purity is the possibility to become anything. That is, my will. If High-Own Mu interprets a blank canvas as something empty, then Kim Young-hoon interprets that canvas as something on which anything can be drawn. And from Kim Young-hoon, the triple divinity of creation begins to emanate. White-winged heavenly Pegasus also creates numerous flower-shaped clusters of Gangchi in the surroundings and laughs. All right, now then, everyone is ready for battle, right? From here on, let's go kill a heavenly venerable. Tadat, we scatter in 3 different directions. I receive wills from Kim Young-hoon and white-winged heavenly Pegasus, and realize what I must do. The underworld 10 kings are blocking damage from High-Own Emu's main body, the martial melody heavenly lord is clashing against one of High-Own Emu's sides to test themselves, and the enders are doing everything they can to suppress an aspect of High-Own Emu's authority. That means in the end, we are the ones who must wound High-Own Mu. Recalling the words of Kim Young-hoon and white-winged heavenly Pegasus, I recognize what must be done. If there is nothing I can cut, then overlaying something becomes the act of cutting. Countless snakes of emptiness rush toward me. I fend off the snakes and land on the edge of the vortex, on the head of one of the snakes. Kim Young-hoon and white-winged heavenly Pegasus also spin, landing on the heads of the snakes at the edges of the 3 great ultimates that is creating the vortex. Without needing to decide who goes first, we each unleash our martial arts toward the snake heads. Heavenly Pegasus Divine Art Tian Ma Xian Gong. Heavenly Pegasus Sovereign Step Tian Ma Jun Lin Bu. Kugwagwagwang. White-winged heavenly Pegasus lets out a powerful cry and stomps on the snake's head. At the same time, the light of creation bursts forth, blowing apart the snake's head. As the snake's skull bursts apart, a space-time belonging to white-winged heavenly Pegasus is created. Kim Young-hoon's will resounds through the world of emptiness. Surpassing radiant Genesis form. First form. Golden wing defiles the light. Shwikik. From the single swing of Kim Young-hoon's saber, a golden river is created. That golden river erases the head of the snake of emptiness. Having overlaid their powers onto their respective snake's head, Kim Young-hoon and white-winged heavenly Pegasus charge from the edge of the three great ultimates toward the center, heading into the eye of the vortex. And everywhere they pass, the principles of triple divinity they've overlaid carve into Hyeon-Emu's true form, beginning to erase it. Watching them, I raise my impermanent sword. Shwish-wish-wick, countless snakes rush toward me. Someone like you dares. It feels as though Hyeon-Emu's voice resounds. Unlike those two, I'm not specialized in creation. But I possess the triple divinity that can specialize in anything. Tuck, tuck tuck, tuck 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 tuck. I begin to strike acupuncture points all across my body. The immortal art Mahayuga activates. The principle of Mahayuga is to interpret the entire world as wheels. And likewise, my body, whether it is the immortal body of a true immortal or a human's flesh, is interpreted as a part of the wheel. Countless wheels gather to form the body, and Mahayuga accelerates the wheel-like body by borrowing the power of the wheel called world. Wheels that govern strength, speed, agility, creativity, endurance, and destructive power begin to rotate fiercely. Every time I strike a point on my body, the cycling power spreads out, drawing rotational power from the wheel that is the world. Keying. At the same time, Mahayuga begins to resonate with the flawless mantra. Behind my back, on the outer edge of the starlight wheel, a white circle appears. Rotation is, ultimately, a bridle. The rotational power of Mahayuga causes my pure white three great ultimates and the immortal art of wheel to spin even faster. At the pinnacle of the bridle is the mantra that obtains the strongest power. Flawlessness. The power of the flawless mantra amplifies, supporting the cycle of my triple divinity. Thus, the triple divinity cycles, spinning the three great ultimates, and that spinning strengthens the flawless mantra. Then, the flawless mantra again assists the cycling of the triple divinity. The amplification of rotational force that begins from Mahayuga grows endlessly as it meets my immortal arts. At this level, could I use the 36th move of Severing Mountain swordsmanship? I recall the final secret art of Severing Mountain I've studied endlessly. But I soon shake my head. That wouldn't suit the current situation. That is a decisive technique meant solely for the great mountain supreme deity who forces power against power. It falls short when facing the true martial great emperor, who has reached the peak of skill even without relying solely on strength. What I must do now? I recall the connections that had reached their fists toward me inside the canvas of myriad forms and connections. Is leave behind a footprint. Shikagek. The impermanence sword is swung. Severing heaven sword form. First form. Entering heaven. A pale mist settles over the impermanence sword. It is the canvas of myriad forms and connections. I dance a sword dance atop the body of Hyeon-Mu. It is a sword dance of failure that fills my life. Tukwang. Snake heads burst open, and my footprints are engraved upon the places where the snakes of emptiness once were. Step by step, I become a storm. White-winged heavenly Pegasus use the heavenly Pegasus divine arts to create a space-time of their own. Kim Young-hoon used the surpassing radiant Genesis form to create his own passage of time. And I, through the severing heaven sword form and the canvas of myriad forms and connections, carve my own footprints. The three of us thus each advance toward the center of the swirling three great ultimates. From the edge of the vortex to its center, we encounter countless snakes. Each of those snakes is the pinnacle of a weapons technique. Bian methods, claw techniques, swordsmanship, saber arts, chain techniques, staff methods, spearmanship. Countless weapons, and even martial arts centered around the physical bodies of demon beasts. The grappling arts of weaker races. The fighting dance of the fighting ghost race. From ordinary stone throwing, to bows, cannons, and even flying sword techniques of cultivators. The entire history of martial arts becomes a flow that takes the form of snakes and surges over us. And as we confront all the martial flows Hyeon-Mu has mastered, we catch a glimpse of Hyeon-Emu's philosophy on the ultimate of martial arts. The pinnacle of martial arts is. Hissing sounds echo, and from within, Hyeon-Emu's voice is heard. The ultimate of killing, Shwayurik. I strike away a snake flying in the form of a segmented whip and leave my footprint behind as I speak. To kill an enemy, to kill others, to kill groups, to kill armies, to kill nations, in the end, to kill the world. And finally, to kill oneself. Then what remains? No intent is visible. Triple divinity is also hard to perceive, perhaps because the place we are in is within Hyeon-Emu's own triple divinity. Therefore, just as I once perceived space using only my 5 senses during my first-rate expert days in order to become a peak master, I rely only on the abilities of my physical body to strike and cut down the snakes. In the end, all that remains is martial arts. And ultimately, all that remains for killing arts to kill is none other than the self. Thus, martial arts kill even oneself, leaving nothing behind. It becomes empty. Beyond the hissing sounds, I feel the heavenly venerable of void laugh. Yet the laugh does not feel like laughter. It feels more like a scream. Martial arts is the art of killing. A blade exists to kill others. A claw exists to threaten enemies. There is no meaning in them. Having no meaning, is the true meaning of martial arts. The number of snakes enveloping us continues to grow. The ultimate that can be achieved with the blade is to kill the world, kill oneself, and finally kill the blade itself, so that all becomes nothing. Immediately after, I am at last completely swallowed by the snakes. Nothing is visible. To kill until one kills even oneself, that is the pinnacle of martial arts. All around is complete darkness. Do you dare interpret the principle of martial arts, which has evolved by killing others, into something else? Can you dare present another answer? Within the darkness, I raise the impermanent sword, now wrapped in the canvas of myriad forms and connections. What meaning is there in swordsmanship that does not kill? Answer me. White-winged heavenly Pegasus listens to Hyeon Emu's voice in the darkness, bearing a solemn expression. What meaning is there in the martial Tao that does not kill others? Kung. Then they grin and stomp down. I hail from the swift horse race, of the demon race. And, in our swift horse race, the martial Tao is not solely for killing others. Kung, cooing, the martial Tao is the technique of moving muscles. And our muscles are not made to stomp enemies to death, but are made to run across the wide open plains. Quang, 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 spreading their wings, white-winged heavenly Pegasus begins to sprint through the darkness, with their entire body brimming with solid muscle. To savor the wide open world. That is my martial Tao. Transformed into a white Pegasus, white-winged heavenly Pegasus transcends space-time for an instant. Immediately after, they connect to the Akashic records and burst through the darkness of Hyeon Mu. At the end of the path piercing through the darkness, a girl clad in black martial attire, with snakes coiled around her body, waits. Kim Young-hoon scatters golden light from within the darkness. Indeed, this blade is undoubtedly a tool created to kill people. Not just people, this is a weapon forged to cut down animals, spirits, and even mountains and fields. As he slices through the snakes charging at him in the darkness, Kim Young-hoon shouts. But, isn't what matters the meaning you give to the blade when you wield it? If, by holding this blade, I can protect my family instead of killing, then isn't that far more important? Then your blade is no more than a thread or an ornament. What meaning is there in a blade you will not draw? Precisely because I do not draw it, I can create countless meanings. Killing is not the end. To give any meaning to this single blade, that is martial arts. Surpassing radiant Genesis form, fourth form, golden radiance flint to flash. Kim Young-hoon becomes a pung wrapped in golden light and soars. The pung flaps its wings and flies upward, piercing through the path of darkness. And at the end of that path of darkness, there, a girl clad in black martial attire smiles with hollow eyes. Martial arts is, I repel the storm of snakes swirling in the darkness as I look within myself. Yes, what is martial arts? Martial arts has always been a part of my life. Because it was a part of my life, it was something I could never give up. But that's all, only a part of life, not the whole. Therefore, I never devoted everything to martial arts. Thus, my answer can't help but be lacking. Martial arts, truly have no meaning. I believe Hyeon Mu is right. Martial arts, in the end, is a means to harm others, to kill enemies. Martial arts is ultimately the art of killing. That premise seems impossible to deny. Then are you saying that while you follow my principle, you dare claim you can cut it down? The storm intensifies. Barely enduring within it, I grit my teeth. If martial arts have no meaning, then why in the world are you even standing here? Opening square bracket. I do think I am unqualified. Yes, I am not someone who dedicates everything to martial arts. Always. There were things more important than martial arts, and to gain those things, I devoted my life to learn martial arts. The reason one can die in the evening after attaining the Tao in the morning is because the Tao attained in the morning is more valuable than life itself. And to me, the name of that Tao is connection, not martial arts. It's a cold statement, and in a way, a bitter one. But my thoughts on martial arts remain unchanged. Martial arts is a part of life. Martial arts is a means. Swikik. I struggle to shake off the snakes. Each and every one of them contains the power to devour a galaxy cluster with ease. Moreover, that power is not drawn from mere energy, but techniques born from the extreme refinement of the flow of the martial Tao. Each of those snakes is no different from an ultimate technique on par with sword-guided star rain. Martial arts itself has no meaning. You are right, Hyeon Mu. You are clearly one who has reached the ultimate of martial arts, and having witnessed that, I cannot dare to discuss the essence of martial arts from within my realm. You know your place well. Tukwang. In the darkness, I grit my teeth as I face the snakes that are the embodiment of Hyeon Mu's enlightenment. I grit so hard my teeth begin to break. But, Shukik, I swing my sword wide and cry out. Though I am still far from worthy of discussing the ultimate of martial arts. Even if martial arts is meaningless, the moment it rests in a person's hand, it gains meaning. My sword dance is imbued with the canvas of myriad forms and connections. With each movement, a footprint is etched, layering my history across the surroundings. Martial arts is something that is passed from person to person. When I first received Severing Mountain swordsmanship, it initially contained 12 moves. It is inherited, and it is developed. Then, when it passed to Kim Young-hoon and was developed, it became 24 moves. And finally, when it connects us. And, as I continued through countless lives, the forms of Severing Mountain swordsmanship I have accumulated now total 36. Only then do the means called martial arts gain meaning. Then, you are saying that martial arts Wu ultimately serves no purpose other than acting as a bridge, are you not? It is not just martial arts. I recall Yu Hua's music. I recall Gyung Chang's dance. I recall Jang Ike's fighting spirit. I recall Jin Ma Yal's fighting dance. Everything in this world only gains meaning when it connects. Nothing holds meaning on its own. As I deflect and cut down the snakes, I finally realize that even my seemingly infinite energy has been completely exhausted. The light of the three great ultimates fades. I now shout entirely with my physical voice as I swing the impermanence sword. When a person carries through their will, it is called chivalric righteousness, Sha Yi. If a person rent believing in their own will, Ja, is called chivalry, Sha. Then perhaps, when people assert their will to each other, communicate, connect, and believe in one another. That might just be the true meaning of martial arts. The most important formula that forms the impermanence sword bursts forth and moves on its own. Like combining all intents turns them colorless. Embrace all connections and become impermanence. Martial arts is the means to carry out chivalric righteousness. With that, as all my energy is exhausted and the impermanence sword enters a state close to nothingness, it moves as if alive, striking away and cutting down all the snakes. Pawak. At last, I break free from the darkness. Where I emerge is Hyeon Mu's true form. The waste of the snakes forming the black three great ultimates. I have reached halfway to the center of the vortex, the place where Hyeon Mu's will rages and swirls. Before my eyes stands Hyeon Mu's incarnation. Then, what is your chivalric righteousness? A girl clad in black martial attire. I answer her confidently. The cause and connection of all phenomena. Quote. It is then, single quote. As I look at her, I realize something I hadn't seen before. That hollow gaze. And perhaps because I'd been overwhelmed by the terrifying martial arts unfolding alongside her black attire, I hadn't perceived it until now. Why, I feel like I've seen her face before. But the face I saw before looked a bit younger than Hyeon Mu's. Then prove it. Prove what your chivalric righteousness is. Shiring, Hyeon Mu grips darkness shaped like a sword at her fingertips and charges at me. Thus, atop the midsection of countless snakes, Hyeon Mu's incarnation and I begin exchanging martial arts. Chapter 640, Heavenly Venerable's Power 2. It is not just Hyeon Mu's incarnation. The black snakes, which are the embodiment of her enlightenment itself, also swarm endlessly to devour me. I dodge the attacks of the snakes and deflect Hyeon Mu's strikes. The weapon held in her hand changes without rest, just like my impermanent sword. At times it is a tiger claw, at times a gauntlet, at times a segmented whip, at times a sword, at times a spear. She wields 10 million types of weapons, pressing down on me. I hold only a single sword in my hand and face Hyeon Mu's martial flow. I rotate the tip of my sword to conceal my trajectory and thrust at Hyeon Mu. Hyeon Mu swings her segmented whip and strikes my wrist, making me drop the sword. But I grab the blade of the sword that floats in the void and swing the hilt to strike Hyeon Mu's head. Hyeon Mu only slightly tilts her head to let the impact slide past. Grabbing the blade, I swing the hilt toward her legs to trip her, but she somersaults and grabs at my neck with her hand in a claw form. Schwiering. Around Hyeon Mu, black swords embodying her will emerge. A fleeting instant, the swords become sword projectiles moving at a speed difficult for me to perceive, and they pierce through my entire body. Divine blood flows from me. Covered in blood, I clash with Hyeon Mu without end. How much time has passed? This is a battle of 1 against 1,000. At some point, time seems to vanish between me and Hyeon Mu. Before I know it, it feels as though time itself has disappeared between me and Hyeon Mu. We exchange thousands, hundreds of millions of attacks in a single second, clashing again and again, as I move forward step by step. How far have I come, cloaking my sword in the canvas of myriad forms and connections as I press forward? How many Shichen have passed? How many days? As I fight Hyeon Mu, I finally realize that I've almost reached the center of the 3 great ultimates. However, as time passes, the more torn and bloodied my body becomes, while not even a speck touches Hyeon Mu's incarnation. Though I dyed her true form with my canvas of myriad forms and connections and disrupted her 3 great ultimates, that is all. Until now, I've yet to gain even a single advantage in an exchange against her incarnation. Right now, I am in the process of dying, and my body is only barely moving, forced forward by immortal arts. At some point, I spot Kim Young-hoon in the distance. I see white-winged heavenly Pegasus as well. They too have succeeded in pushing against Hyeon Mu, sweeping through the countless snakes to reach the center of the 3 great ultimates, but like me, they have also failed to leave a single wound on Hyeon Mu's incarnation. At least Kim Young-hoon still looks relatively unscathed like Hyeon Mu, but exhaustion clearly shows on his face, while Hyeon Mu still appears relaxed. Coo-goo-goo-goo-goo-goo-goo. Far away, Hyeon Mu's true body begins to move. The snakes, tainted by Kim Young-hoon, white-winged heavenly Pegasus, and me, have become blotchy and weakened. Yet even in that state, the snakes spiral, enveloping the entire abyss and beginning to grind the heavenly domains to dust. Bearing Tree, Twin Holding, and the Earth boundary heavenly domains are completely ground away and annihilated. More than half of the Heavenly King heavenly domain is visibly shredded away as well. It's over. I bite down on my lip, knowing my comrades are exhausted too. You spoke big about cutting me. How laughable. I will commend you for slightly paralyzing my true body, but that is all. Shwiriririk. At last, the 3 incarnations of Hyeon Mu who had been fighting us withdraw to the center of the vortex. The 3 incarnations overlap, shiver, at the center of the vortex. There, Hyeon Mu shrouds herself in the power of the vortex, wiping all expression from her face. I have watched closely for months as you clung to your interpretation of martial arts. And as expected, I understand now. Hyeon Mu lifts her weapon with an expressionless face. The interpretation of martial arts you speak of is nothing but garbage. It happens in an instant. Shwiriric. Hyeon Mu vanishes from sight. Quote. Exclamation mark question mark quote. A moment later, I realize my internal world is completely shaken, and I'm being hurled far away. Again, just like before, there are times like this when Hyeon Mu's movements become unfollowable, as if time itself has been erased. I immediately regain my stance in the void, kick off the dimension, and shoot toward Hyeon Mu. Heavenly Pegasus, Kim Young-hoon, and I form the 3 powers formation, Sankai-gen, and begin to assault Hyeon Mu from 3 directions. However, Tukwang, Kurg, Ku, even though white-winged heavenly Pegasus, Kim Young-hoon, and I press Hyeon Mu with a joint formation, even though we are neutralizing her destruction with the intent of creation, we realize we are far from suppressing Hyeon Mu, and are instead being gradually pushed into a defensive position. Ku, her true body is paralyzed, and yet just her incarnation alone is this powerful. Ha! Shikek. In another instant, Hyeon Mu vanishes again. Immediately after, white-winged heavenly Pegasus has their head slammed down onto a snake's scale by a single punch from Hyeon Mu. Just what is that movement, as if time itself is being erased? It's that movement is the very reason why we, after all this time, have failed to inflict even a speck of injury on Hyeon Mu's incarnations. Especially for me and white-winged heavenly Pegasus, both of us are immortal beasts who use explosive force, and we are halfway connected to the Akashic records. Even so, we can't follow Hyeon Mu's movements at all. The only one who's even somewhat managing to keep up is Kim Young-hoon. Kim Young-hoon. I look toward him. He calmly synchronizes with our attacks, occasionally striking at Hyeon Mu. But I can still feel it. Kim Young-hoon is hiding a move. No, Not just one move. 3 moves. He's holding at least 3 moves. But he's not revealing them. He's probably waiting. If Hyeon Mu shows even the slightest gap, he will unleash those hidden moves and go all in. However, Hyeon Mu shows no openings. I can't use something like foolish old man moves mountains against Hyeon Mu. Against opponents where power is necessary, foolish old man moves mountains is the ultimate technique, but for someone like Hyeon Mu, who feels like the perfect superior version of myself, it is only a hindrance. But if I try to force an opening with a big technique, I'll be caught in that acceleration that seems to erase time and die. I sweat cold spiritual energy as I move my body. Before I know it, I feel the world beginning to flatten. My movements are gradually transcending dimensions. My energy has long been depleted. I'm only reaching this domain through willpower that controls immortal arts and triple divinity. I see now. Kuririk. I realize my triple divinity is growing at an extreme rate. I am still growing even now. And white-winged heavenly Pegasus and Kim Young-hoon. I can feel my realm, which was lower than both of theirs in skill, rising. Unlike the two who have completely mastered their divine nature, I span across all domains, but have yet to fully control even a single aspect of triple divinity. But gradually, I feel triple divinity becoming internalized within me. Is it because, in a state where I've expended all my energy to the utmost limit, I am fighting alongside peerless martial masters, and am facing the strongest martial artist? Even at this very moment, my skills are improving by leaps and bounds. Right now, this is the domain of pure experience, requiring neither talent, nor enlightenment, nor effort. As I move my body through extremely refined consciousness, I finally sense that my movements have transcended something. Keying. Spirit speed, Ling Su. My movement has now reached the realm of spirit speed, where the moment I think, I am already there. Is there truly anything in all of existence faster than thought? I have reached the extreme that can be attained by speed. The moment I realize this, I perceive that triple divinity is almost in my grasp. And at last, I realize that I finally, if barely, stand on the same level of vision as Kim Young-hoon and white-winged heavenly Pegasus. Yeah, now it will work. I see it. The movements of Hyeon Mu, which I have never been able to follow until now, become visible. Hyeon Mu steps step by step, dancing. It is, quite literally, a dance without meaning, a dance of emptiness that has reached the pinnacle of killing. Created solely for the purpose of slaughter, the ultimate killing karma. All the techniques Hyeon Mu had previously shown, fierce battle of 10,000 demons, blood trace of subduing devils, annihilation advancement, are contained within that dance. But, I've started to see it. Now that my movement has finally reached spirit speed, I am able to follow Hyeon Mu's steps. First step, second steps, third steps boo. Each step contains the enlightenments of fierce battle of 10,000 demons, blood trace of subduing devils, and annihilation advancement. I can follow, just when I think so. Shukwick. I realize my throat has been sliced open. Single quote question mark single quote. Each and every strike from Hyeon Mu is dangerous. To the point where even with the immortal body of a true immortal, I feel myself dying as the power of fate and history is being severed. Even though I delay death with immortal arts, the pain I feel each time is absolutely not something I can ignore. And, once again, I open my eyes wide as I see Hyeon Mu's weapon swing from a domain I cannot even perceive. What? I reached spirit speed. I far surpass the speed of light, and every movement occurs the instant I think of it. I believed all that remained was to unleash endless offensives and defend against Hyeon Mu's strikes. But then, why can't I dodge Hyeon Mu's attacks? Even after reaching spirit speed, it's the same. Hyeon Mu's acceleration still exists in a domain I cannot comprehend. Hyeon Mu steps again. First step, second step, third step. Immediately after, Pete. Once again, as if erasing time, Hyeon Mu viciously tears apart the genitals of white-winged heavenly Pegasus. White-winged heavenly Pegasus lets out a lion's roar and tries to kick Hyeon Mu away, but Hyeon Mu skillfully and smoothly evades the kick and withdraws. And again, first step, second step, third step. Pot. Hyeon Mu clashes weapons with Kim Young-hoon and a weapon called Hojo. What is this? Even with spirit speed, I can't keep up. Even Kim Young-hoon can only barely respond to Hyeon Mu's speed. It's when I begin to fall into despair. Seo Eun-yun, Kim Young-hoon's will reaches me. Have you reached spirit speed? I nod. Gradually, Hyeon Mu's expression grows dull, and the range of her attacks begins to expand. Hyeon Mu, who has been toying with only us, now begins to unleash attacks toward the underworld 10 kings, the martial melody heavenly lord, and the enders who are confronting Hyeon Emu's true body from the outside. Swinging her true body, that is paralyzed by our divinity, like a weapon, she is actually increasing her destructive power even more. As if the claim that she expelled all the living beings across the entirety of Mount Sumeru before was no lie. The chaos caused by Hyeon Mu seems to be bringing all of Mount Sumeru to a collapse. Create just a single opening. If you do, from that moment onward, we will be able to properly confront Hyeon Mu. That's right, Kim Young-hoon has also been waiting for me. Waiting until I awaken spirit speed and reach this domain. I grit my teeth and nod. Just a single opening. The world is being destroyed. And even though we're going all out, we still can't see the bottom of Hyeon Mu's power. Hyeon Mu is still playing with us. Can I make it? But I erase the hesitation that rises in the fleeting instant. I will make it. I begin to grasp how Hyeon Mu accelerates. After taking the third step, on the fourth, she transforms to a transcendent speed. Perhaps it's because the speed itself transcends space-time, reaching infinity, so even if time stops, she can still move at infinite speed. I realize this thanks to none other than the Mahayuga. The insight of Mahayuga and that fourth step definitely share the same enlightenment. First step, achieving Shang, or Krita. Second step, halting Zu, or Treta. Third step, breaking Y, or Divyapara. And the final, fourth step, emptiness Kong, or Kali. It is realized, sustained, then collapses, and in the end, only nothingness Shuwu remains. Pot. The face of the heavenly venerable of void suddenly appears before my eyes. Looks like your discernment has improved a bit. As I look at that face, I begin to unleash my ultimate move with all the strength I have. I'll create an opening. My consciousness reached the extreme limit, and perhaps thanks to that, I am able to read the wisdom behind Hyeon Mu's footwork. Dance of emptiness. Fourth form, eternal step Yong-Jie-Bu, a supreme movement technique, an ultimate footwork that transcends both eternal time and space to reach without obstruction. That is precisely the ultimate technique of Hyeon Mu, who accelerates before our very eyes as if erasing time. But that's all. At this rate, at that moment, I truly prepare myself for death. At the same time, I draw forth the authority of the impermanence sword to its extreme limit. My own technique where authority and martial arts unite. Impermanence sword. Retribution enforcement Ying Bao Ji Xing. Kuriririk. The impermanence sword enforces retribution for all the attacks Hyeon Mu has dealt me until now. Of course, the difference in rank between us is too vast, so I cannot return the damage as is. Even if I completely reflect the attacks, Hyeon Mu would either block or dodge them all. No matter what I do, I cannot surpass that eternal step and deliver an absolute retribution. However, one thing is certain. Teeing, quote. Exclamation mark quote. A corner of Hyeon Mu's lips lifts slightly. A look as if she finds this quite amusing. Teeing, 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 teeing. The impermanence sword, emitting a clear sound like glass, accelerates, for a single moment, in my hand that has reached spirit speed, and closes in on Hyeon Mu. At the same time, through all the retribution, thus far, I begin to block the offensive delivered through Hyeon Mu's eternal step. The retribution for everything Hyeon Mu inflicted upon me until now, has, at best, blocked a single attack due to the gap in rank between us. But that's enough. Impermanence sword, myriad forms and connections, ghost face killing heaven. The two immortal arts embedded within the impermanence sword activate. Hyeon Mu's existence engraved within the canvas of myriad forms and connections. And Hyeon Mu's heart, through the retribution given and received between the heart and heart, they connect. Hyeon Mu's expression changes, an expression that shows she has already seen through my technique. But within that expression is a hint of delight. A good attempt. Give it a try. We connect. Each time we exchange a strike, each time we exchange our hearts, I gradually connect with her. Her single strikes, that once tore apart heavenly domains and ripped through the cosmos, begin to focus into a single point. No strength leaks out, everything clings to Hyeon Mu's weapon. An even stronger assault continues. Each and every strike now surpasses sword-guided star rain. But I endure the pain that feels as if my entire body is being torn apart, and at last, I complete my ultimate technique. Keying. For an instant, I become fully connected with Hyeon Mu. Though our bodies are separated, Hyeon Mu's mind and mine are linked, and her life is connected with mine. Through myriad forms and connections, I connect our hearts, and through the curse of ghost face killing heaven, I bind our causality. I look at Kim Young-hoon. He is preparing something. I will give Kim Young-hoon that fleeting instant, that opening. In that moment when everything is completely connected with Hyeon Mu. Shukwick. I cut my own neck with all my might. The ultimate move of heavenly escape begins to launch me into the domain of purity. At the same time, the sword form born from the fusion of my authority and martial arts begins to shine. Severing heaven's sword form. You weren't total trash, it seems. Hyeon Mu speaks with a smile, and I smile too. Fourth form. Keying. Even you can't ignore this one. Shedding heaven, Tuo Tien. Becoming linked with the opponent through the exchange of blows, then when completely bound by causality, plunging into the domain of purity through one's own death, the ultimate technique of mutual destruction. A binding technique so terrible, it can momentarily escape even from the grasp of the heavens, that is the fourth form of the severing heaven sword form. Thus, I enter the domain of purity while connected with Hyeon Mu. Since it forcibly drags the opponent into the domain of purity, it becomes a certain death technique for any who cannot access that domain. Even for martial artists who can access the domain, it inevitably creates an opening. A fine technique. Even Hyeon Mu cannot help but reveal a momentary gap. Such a pity, though. That's what she thinks. If only you had contemplated a bit more on what emptiness Kong truly is, you would have known how meaningless. This is. Single quote. Huh. Hyeon Mu severs the connection between us. Then she begins to return from the domain of purity to the real world. How? And I immediately understand. Eternal step. The restriction of 4 steps per eternal step no longer exists within the domain of purity. How could? Hyeon Mu begins accelerating infinitely, returning back to reality. It was a good attempt, but none of you can defeat me. Hyeon Mu says this and flings me aside, leaving the domain of purity behind. But is it because I was connected with Hyeon Mu for even a brief moment? Along with a vast emptiness that forms in my heart, I begin to momentarily share Hyeon Mu's vision. What Hyeon Mu sees upon exiting the domain of purity are all the others launching a full-on assault against her. The Underworld 10 Kings, White-Winged Heavenly Pegasus, the Martial Melody Heavenly Lord, and the Enders are all rushing in to buy Kim Young-hoon a fleeting moment. Fools. Hyeon Mu's acceleration does not end, and in that state, she begins to move her true body. That massive and terrifying true body of Hyeon Mu accelerates at infinite speed, knocking everyone away. She uses the paralyzed parts as weapons, flinging away the Underworld 10 Kings, crushing the Martial Melody Heavenly Lord, and tearing apart White-Winged Heavenly Pegasus. Jaeon Myung-hoon's Indra net is completely ripped to shreds. Jaeon Myung-hoon, drawing upon the power of Zhengli, is flung away, his body split in half along with Zhengli's in a single clash with Hyeon Mu. Oh Yun-sok and the naming supreme deity are launched all the way to the elephant nose heavenly domain with a single massive blow, crashing into the heavenly domain. The laws added by Kong Min-hee are torn apart in a single rampage by Hyeon Mu's true body, and against the vast cold heavenly lord's body that is throwing a straight punch under Kim Yeon's control, Hyeon Mu's true body moves to restrain it. All this happens in a single instant within Eternal Step's infinite acceleration. Jaejeong. Perhaps the punch unleashed by the vast cold heavenly lord's body is too strong for even Hyeon Mu to take head-on, so she takes another step and twists the punch, letting the attack pass by. At the same time, Hyeon Mu rotates her true body and sends both Kim Yeon and the vast cold heavenly lord's body flying. Tukwong. Just like that, the body of the vast cold heavenly lord is flung outside Mount Sumeru. Damn it. Shururururuk. All of this takes place in a single moment. As I return to reality, I look at Hyeon Mu with despair in my eyes. Can we not win? From the beginning, Hyeon Mu has been toying with us completely. There was never any chance of victory for us. Vast Cold's body was a bit dangerous, but nothing more. Ahaha, look at that. Even the body of that vast cold heavenly lord, during the activation of Eternal Step. Second step. Hyeon Mu approaches Kim Young-hoon and draws a weapon. Is of absolutely no threat to this venerable. Just by dispelling the duration of Eternal Step, that child has fulfilled her role. Third step. Right before Eternal Step is about to activate. Filling the heavens sword rain. Single quote. Huh. A silver-white radiant sword falls before my eyes. Hyeon Mu's eyes widen for the first time. What? Since our battle began, this is the first time her face shows bewilderment. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. No, hundreds of millions of sword-guided star rains fall at spirit speed, crushing both Hyeon Mu and her true body. My new form of severing heaven sword form briefly drew Hyeon Mu's attention. In that brief window, everyone combined their strength to burn through the duration of eternal step, and Kim Yeon's strike completely ended it. And in the fleeting instant hence gained, within that time, the fifth seat of the Radiance Eight Immortals, the Sword Spear Heavenly Lord, has intervened. Countless sword rain lines fall, and Hyeon Mu once again activates Eternal Step. Quagwagwagwang. But that Eternal Step is not used to destroy the hidden move Kim Young-hoon is preparing. It is forced to instead shatter the sudden intrusion of the Sword Spear Heavenly Lords filling the heavens sword rain. With the rain dew Heavenly Lord present, why are you here? Sword Spear. Hyeon Mu shouts, taken aback, but the Sword Spear Heavenly Lord merely looks at me calmly from within the distant fragments of the Heavenly King Heavenly Domain. Receiving their gaze, I understand why the Sword Spear Heavenly Lord has appeared here. Single quote. Thank you, but Hyeon Mu, who shatters filling the heavens sword rain in an instant, only lets out a smirk. I was just a little surprised by the completely unexpected ambush. Still, you lot are. First step, second step, third step. Hyeon Mu begins accelerating once more. Nowhere near my standards. A strange sound rings in my ears. Not just me, everyone must be hearing it. And white-winged heavenly Pegasus sheds tears. Quote. Beautiful, they too seem to be out of strength, as they speak their admiration out loud. Yes, for the first time, someone has countered Hyeon Mu's assault. With shining golden eyes, it is Kim Young-hoon. Shwaririk, his hand. I look at Kim Young-hoon's hand. His hand has turned golden, completely fused with his saber that is now dyed in that same golden hue. It's as if the saber itself has become a part of his body. Through the wisdom resonating across the space, we come to understand the identity of the ultimate technique Kim Young-hoon unleashes. Surpassing Radiant Genesis Form, Fifth Form, Dusk Rugged Heaven Huang Hun Tuo Tien. In the Buddhist family, aside from the future king, twin venerables, and 7 brilliances kings, there exist countless other bodhisattvas and divine generals. It is just that those 10 are the most well-known. Many other divine generals also exist. And now, I recall a certain divine general I once read about in the scriptures of the Buddhist family methods. Witichian Wei Tuo Tien Kartikya Skanda. The divine general said to be the fastest in the world. Kim Young-hoon now displays a grandeur as if Witichian themselves has descended upon this place. Hyeon Mu sees this and lets out a crooked grin. Not bad. That technique, is it a fusion of the 4 previous forms of the surpassing Radiant Genesis form? Quote. Yeah, I used this to push through the outer sea. Indeed, this Dusk Rugged Heaven is a technique that integrates all forms of the surpassing Radiant Genesis form, as well as all the martial arts Kim Young-hoon has developed up to now. Hyeon Mu brushes off her body and speaks. The destructive power isn't bad. It looks like a technique that maximizes the divinity of destruction. But for someone like you, who's specialized in Brahma nature, what are you doing making such a technique? Ridiculous. Hyeon Mu chuckles as if absurd while looking down on Kim Young-hoon, and begins to fuse her true body and incarnation together. Somehow, I get the sense that if true immortals have designated combat technique forms, then this must be Hyeon Mu's. You did manage to properly counter my attack, but you are still slow. Can you even keep up with Eternal Step? Starting now, in an instant, Kim Young-hoon vanishes before our eyes. Quote. Quote. The Underworld 10 Kings, White-Winged Heavenly Pegasus, the Martial Melody Heavenly Lord, the Sword Spear Heavenly Lord, all the other Ender comrades, and me, we all lose sight of Kim Young-hoon in that instant. Only Hyeon Mu's gaze follows him, and by tracing her gaze, we barely figure out where Kim Young-hoon is. He has already reached the Sun and Moon Heavenly Domain, and is standing atop its dimensional veil. Shiver, chills rise all over my body. Kim Young-hoon's will resounds throughout the 3 heavens world. Give it your all, true martial great emperor. Kim Young-hoon's entire body begins to ignite. At the same time, the golden light bursting from his body seems to shine across the entirety of the 3 heavens world. Through the wisdom contained within that light, we once again begin to understand the technique he now unveils. Single quote. Ah, the Dusk Rugged Heaven he was hiding was merely a move held in reserve. The true technique Kim Young-hoon wished to reveal to face Hyeon Mu is that Hyeon Mu begins to grow tense for the first time. Quarururuk. Hyeon Mu's true body compresses rapidly, transforming into a form resembling her incarnation. Countless black snakes gather and form a humanoid shape, perfectly optimized for martial arts. Her appearance now resembles a bizarre figure wrapped entirely in black bandages. Kim Young-hoon kicks off from the dimensional veil of the Sun and Moon heavenly domain and begins to descend. Surpassing radiant Genesis form, the debris of countless heavenly domains between him and Hyeon Mu, including the Heavenly King heavenly domain, are split in half all at once. The sixth form, Jaejaoyeong, golden light explodes as Hyeon Mu and Kim Young-hoon collide. Golden speed heavenly king, the ultimate technique that reaches the pinnacle of the surpassing radiant Genesis form and Hyeon Mu's true body now clash within the briefest possible instant.